We're good. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the City Commission meeting of Monday, January 21st. At this time, I would like to call Pastor Bob Burns from Bayside Community Church to please come forward and lead us in the invocation. So if everyone would please stand up and then remain standing for the flag, for the pledge to the flag.
Good morning, or good morning, good evening. Thanks for letting me be here tonight. Join us in prayer, please. Dear God, thank you that you make all things new. Thank you for all that you've allowed into our lives this past year, the good along with the hard things. They've all reminded us how much we need you and rely on you, your presence every day, filling us with every single thing. We pray for your Spirit to lead us each step of this new year. We ask that you guide our decisions and turn our hearts to deeply desire you above all else. We ask that you will open doors that need to be opened and close the ones that need to be shut tight. We ask that you would help us release our grip on the things to which you've said no, not yet, or wait. We ask to help pursue you first, above every dream and desire that you've put within our hearts. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor. All right, so we're going to move to the presentation portion of the meeting. At this time, Josh, you want me to turn this over to you for the introduction of our new HR director?
Yes, please.
Okay.
All right. Michelle, come on down.
Yes.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. I'm happy to introduce Michelle Posowitz as our next Human Resources Director. Ms. Posowitz has an extensive background in education and human resources with experience in employment, compensation studies, performance evaluations, benefits, wellness initiatives, retirement, workers' compensations, labor management, and union negotiations. She has a bachelor's degree from the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater and a master's degree from Western Governors University. Very exciting, Michelle and her family live here in Safety Harbor, and we're excited to welcome her to the team and wish her the best of luck. Congratulations, Michelle.
Thank you. I just wanted to say good evening and thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to working with the team.
And thank you for coming. We're very excited to have you on board the team. We think you're going to love it here, and we all look forward to working with you.
Absolutely. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so now we have 2 years of service recognitions. At this time, I'd like to call Ms. Christine Williams to please come forward.
Cough, please.
There she is. Christine has been with us for 25 years, and I'm going to go ahead and read some things and then come down and present you with a plaque and a gift certificate. So Christine's journey with the city began as a volunteer in the early 1990s, assisting with the adult limousine scavenger hunt, where her enthusiasm for recreation was first ignited. Shortly thereafter, she was hired as a recreation leader, continuing her creativity to special events, crafting balloon arches, decorations, and more. Christine transitioned to a full-time role in the finance department in 2001, where she excelled and in 2007 was promoted to assistant finance director. However, her passion for recreation eventually called her back to her true vocation, and she returned to the recreation department in 2009, where she has made a tremendous impact. Christine's love for the arts and water has inspired countless programs, drawing thousands of participants and visitors to our city. Currently serving as a recreation supervisor, Christine oversees arts programming, aquatic camps, museum programs, and 3 city galleries. Her leadership and passion for the arts have fostered incredible partnerships with groups like TESA, the Exhibiting Society of Artists, and IMI, Incredible Me Painting. Christine's mentorship has shaped many interns and staff members at the museum, leaving a legacy of creativity, dedication, and excellence. Her passion, leadership, and extraordinary contributions have truly enriched our community. So Christine, thank you so much. 25 years, that's a long time.
Thank you. Thank you for, a lot of years. I started with Andrea back and Kellyanne back in, with the limousine scavenger hunt. It was amazing to feel that growth through the years and be over here through finance and then now go back to recreation and now in the museum. So love it there. So thank you.
Thank you. It is 25 years of service. Here's a gift card for you.
All right, cool.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
And now I'd like to call Katie Taylor to please come forward. Now I'm trying to read here. It doesn't say up front how many years this is. No, hold on, 5 years, right? 5 years, all right. So thank you for being here tonight. So Katie started her career with the library in January of 2020 as a part-time library assistant 2 in the adult recreation department. Prior to working with us, she taught English in Korea, was a rare book cataloger at the University of Pennsylvania, and worked at the Clearwater East Library. She is a graduate of Bates College in Maine and holds a master's degree in, paleopathology from Durham University in England. Did I say that right? Okay. While working there, she pursued her master's in library science from FSU, graduating in May of 2023. In June of 2023, a full-time opening for a teen librarian occurred, and Katie was promoted to Librarian 1 in the youth department where she works today. She's established a rapport with her Teen Bright Futures volunteers and has created a volunteer program instilling responsibility. She's always thinking of new, robust program ideas, ordering books young people and adults are interested in, and has rearranged the teen area to make it more inviting and user-friendly, including the maintenance of a comfort cabinet with free supplies for teens. She encourages teen volunteers to apply for the Friends of the Library Volunteer Scholarship, reminding them of the looming deadline they are pretending doesn't exist. So we thank Katie for all she does for the teens and all the youth of all ages in our community. So thank you very much, and how about a round of applause for Katie? That's pretty impressive. Korea, do you want to tell us a little bit about that? Or?
I was there for 4 years. It was a lot of fun, challenging, not understanding the language when I got there.
You speak it now?
I've forgotten a lot.
Okay, but you did speak it.
I could get by,
Pretty cool.
but not anymore. But it was fun. It was fun.
Well, thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
For your 5 years, we have a paperweight for you.
Nice, thank you.
Okay, now we have a Diversity Advisory Board update. Who's giving the update?
Thank you so much for having us tonight, Mayor and Commission. My name is Autumn Pearson. I'm going to speak on behalf of the Diversity Advisory Board tonight. I am the Vice Chair, and it's a real honor for me personally to be a part of this board. When I moved back to the United States and took up residency in Safety Harbor, the first thing I did was figure out how I could get involved in diversity and inclusion, because that's the lens that I personally navigate my life through as a community member and an educator. So I was super honored to be selected for this group, and I want to share with you a little bit about who we are and what we have accomplished and what we hope to accomplish. So thanks for being here tonight and listening on this cold, cold day. And what a great day to be able to speak about this the day after Martin Luther King Day, which I hope everyone took pause to recognize that peace and love is the way to go within a leadership role. So here we go. Diversity Advisory Board, Safety Harbor. Oh, I have the clicker. Do I click this? I'll go forward. There we go. The Diversity Advisory Board was created in 2020 under the first chairman, Mr. Louis Pons. Our current members are the chairperson, Sandra Mexicano, vice chairperson, Autumn Pearson, Amy Bousquet, Shelley Ann Childers, Randy Lasky, Agatha Skirt Burke, and Lester Weiss. It's a great group. Our vision is the City of Safety Harbor's Diversity Advisory Board serves as a primary contributor to create a welcoming and inclusive community that respects all citizens, gives them full access to resources, and promotes equal treatment and opportunity. The board strives to engage citizens in decision-making and processes that affect their lives. Some historical accomplishments that we're very proud of. The William L. Blackshear Commission Chamber, which you are in right now, was dedicated in 2020. There's an emergency assistance fund agreement in partnership with Pinellas Opportunity Council, helping residents with financial needs, including rent, mortgage, utilities, summer camp, and childcare costs. We conduct community walks annually to assess our local communities and what they need to feel included and maybe perhaps create a stronger bridge within our community. We do meet and greet events in partnership with Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. We work with Habitat for Humanity, Habitat Homes dedication ceremony in 2024. We had a Spanish translated resource pamphlet in partnership with the Safety Harbor Chamber of Commerce that we can give out to local communities to let them know how to access different resources to help them get what they need. And we have a community unity installation at Waterfront Park, which I'm sure you've all seen and enjoyed. Mr. William Blackshear was the first Black City Commissioner in Safety Harbor and the first Black elected leader in Pinellas County, who has helped establish the Weekly Challenger in 1967, a newspaper serving Tampa Bay, and that is what this chamber is dedicated to. So we are really appreciative of his work and recognition. The Community Walk. So DAB is the Diversity Advisory Board. So DAB focuses on marginalized communities in Safety Harbor, providing resource information and putting that directly in the hands of those in our community. We feel that it's important to greet our community members face to face and speak openly about how we believe inclusion can grow within Safety Harbor. The Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, we have a meet and greet event at Maddie Williams. As soon as they open up again, we have one scheduled in the spring. That's a great time for community members to come and learn more about what the Sheriff's Office does and how they can be of assistance. Inclusion and community recognitions for the commemorative flags. During these times, we accept proclamations here. You might have seen me a time or two accepting some of those. I really feel honored to be able to do that. We recognize here in the Commission Black History Month for February, Women's History Month in March, Asian Pacific American May, LGBTQ Pride Month in June, Hispanic History in September through October, and the Native American History Month in November. Adding to that, so the inclusion and community recognition. So at the top, you'll see our board member, Les Weiss, right here, this dapper young man. And myself, we were here to accept Black African American History Month and Native American History Month to accept the proclamations by Mayor Ayub. And this is a great time for us to be able to speak about why we do recognize these communities with the flags and able to speak a little bit about the positive impact that those communities have within our community. Here's a little bit more about that. So here I am again with Shelley Ann Childers here to my right, accepting the LGBTQ plus for Pride Month. And you'll see there in the middle, that is Wendy. She is the nonprofit chair for PFLAG, which is the only P flag in Pinellas County, and that is right here in Safety Harbor, so we're really happy to have that as part of our community as well. Tolerance Fair, this was a super special event that I was able to help host in collaboration with DAB and the Safety Harbor Art and Music Center. Girl Scout Troop 1111 celebrated their first annual Tolerance Fair at the Safety Harbor Art and Music Center on September 28th. This was a result of the social justice class that I teach every year at the Safety Harbor Art and Music Center. We just had our 3rd annual class. That was hosted yesterday for Martin Luther King Day. We brought in 4 different speakers, had a wonderful group of young people in attendance, and last year the group was so moved by this presentation that they chose to have a tolerance fair free to the community as their bronze award for their Troop 1111, and the mural was hung up this week in recognition of their efforts. It was a really powerful program. Here's some more images of Tolerance Fair. It was right after Hurricane Helene, and my goal previous to hurricane was to have 100 people, and right after the hurricane, over 100 people showed, meeting and exceeding our goal. We were really thrilled about that. Community outreach, the Diversity Advisory Board partnered with the Safety Harbor Recreation Division on September 7th at the North City Park Community Picnic, and shared information and pamphlets within our community at that great event. Some more community outreach. We also participated in the holiday parade. We like to be out and about and spread the word about inclusion and diversity and how you can be a part of that. This is our pamphlet we're really proud of. We developed and had that out for print this year as part of one of our major accomplishments. This is also translated in Spanish, and it is available to anyone in the community to seek out resources that could be helpful for a diverse group of people, front and back. We do have a lot of partnerships, Pinellas Opportunity Council, multicultural events with the Safety Harbor Museum, Pinellas County Economic Development, PFLAG, Maddie Williams, Safety Harbor Chamber, Habitat for Humanity, the Safety Harbor Art and Music Center, Girl Scout Troop 1111, and the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. Partnerships are very important. City support, thank you, Commission, for all of your continued support, and city staff for their efforts in facilitating DAB goals and objectives. And we are here to help and advise you should you ever have questions for us as you make great decisions for our great community. So thank you for supporting our board and us and having us here tonight. It's important work, and we appreciate your support.
Well, Autumn and team, thank you very much. Great presentation. Thank you for all you do.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks for your involvement in the community. It's great. Keep up the good work. Okay, all right, y'all are gonna have to bear with me because we have 13 consent agenda items, so I'm gonna just, you got something?
Audience to be heard.
Huh?
Audience to be heard.
Oh, yeah, sorry. All right, but before that, we do have the audience to be heard, so if there's anyone in the audience that wishes to be heard on an item that's not on the regular agenda or that's on the consent agenda, please come forward, state your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes to address the commission.
Sharon McCauley, 226 Short Street. This is about the last code enforcement meeting about Barfly continuing to violate our codes. That meeting was a disgrace and a perversion of justice. It was given a mountain of evidence by the code enforcement officer, and immediately 2 members asked to dismiss all the charges. It was almost like it was planned that way. Then the chairperson asked for a $50 a day fine instead of the $250 that the code enforcement officer asked for. $50 a day is 3 drinks. Is that supposed to be some kind of a deterrent? And they gave them 5 more months to keep violating our code. It sounded very much like the fix was in because few days before this, more chairs, more picnic benches appeared, brand new ones that they put out there. There was no hardship. They are a repeat offender for 3 years. All 3 of these people showed poor judgment and should be removed from that board. The Barfly attorneys said at the meeting that they didn't apply for the permit because there was no guarantee that it would be approved, so instead they decided to just keep on violating the code. They are also in violation of their business license for the required number of parking spaces, and if they continue not moving off of that property, that license should be pulled. You all took an oath of office. You are required to enforce our codes, and you have refused to do it for 3 years, leaving the city open to a lawsuit. People are moving out because of the noise downtown. You don't have the right to do that to people. We're asking for you to rescind the bad decision, start the $250 a day fine retroactive to November 6th, when they were supposed to be out there for the second time, and give them 1 business day to pack up that stuff and get out of there, including the illegal bar that nobody from the city noticed was there for probably a couple of years. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to be heard?
Thank you. Marty Schumacher, 206 3rd Avenue North. I was just wanting to know what the city could do or can do as you walk around town, all the abandoned cables that are hanging on poles all over the place. I don't know if they're cable. Everyone I walk around in my neighborhood, there's 2 or 3 rolled up, hanging there loose. I don't know if they're Frontiers, if they're the cable companies, AT&Ts, but I think they look like junk around our town. I was hoping there's something that the city can do. I don't know if there's, what kind of agreements we have with those firms if they get to use that, but just wanted to bring that to somebody's attention.
Thank you for that. If you would, if you see it, just take a picture and note the location and send it to us so we can look at it and determine if it's utility, if it's cable, or what it is. And maybe we can reach out and have a better likelihood of addressing it.
Well, I know that right in front of my house, there's one, the back of my house, there's one, and
Yeah.
you can't walk down these neighborhoods without seeing 20 or 30 of them, so, but I will snap a few and send somebody's way.
Or call Public Works directly, Mayor.
Okay, or call Public Works directly.
All right.
The number's on the website because I had a call it last week.
Thank
All
you.
right, thanks, Marty. Anyone else?
Good evening, Tori Charles, 1507 Cedar Street. I was here about a year ago and I brought to your attention a safety study that you guys did back in 2016 regarding the need for continuous sidewalks along Cedar Street. It's been a year now. The new homes are done. We've got our sidewalks there, but we still don't have a continuous sidewalk from McMullen Booth to, I think it's Elm. I'm not as prepared tonight, it was kind of last minute, but I saw you guys just recently put up a sign welcoming people to Safety Harbor. So obviously you're recognizing Cedar Street as a main thoroughfare into the community, which it is. And it would be wonderful if we could get continuous sidewalks. That's a very heavily traveled street due to the industrial site, new home developments, and everything else going on. I brought it to your attention about a year ago and I never heard anything. I don't know how the follow-up is on that. I do have a suggestion though. On the north side of Cedar Street, we have the open ditches, which doesn't make it real easy to make that continuous. We have some homes with sidewalks, some homes without. I was thinking on the south side, which it backs to the privacy fence of that subdivision, there's an open ditch, but we could do an elevated sidewalk, a boardwalk. Because on the north side, you're gonna run into the trouble of the underground utilities and the underground, I think it's a pump station, right at McMullen Booth and Cedar. So I don't think we're ever gonna get continuous sidewalks on the north side. It's not feasible. But if we went to the south side, there are no driveways, there's nothing but an open ditch and privacy fence. And to do a boardwalk, much like what you've done along the park behind Safety Harbor Spa, just an elevated boardwalk.
I'll tell you what, I know we have and Josh, I'm not going to put you on the spot because I'm pretty sure we have a sidewalk policy. And you probably don't know it off the top of your head, but if you could leave your information with the city clerk
Well,
and,
I was gonna say, as I talked about before, the city, county / owns 4 of the non-compliant.
so there's issues there
Right,
with that,
it's,
yeah.
it's not an easy fix, and I
Right.
get it. And then even if we did have continuous sidewalks, there is the concern of driveways backing into them, so but it's heavily pedestrian and bicycle roadway, because it is the main thoroughfare into the community. If you live north of Cedar Street, you're gonna use your first available access to the community, which is Cedar Street. So between Enterprise and Cedar, all those neighborhoods and people use Cedar as their access to the community. So there's a lot of moving parts, and that's why I want to mention the possibility of doing it on the south side with just an elevated boardwalk.
But what, if you would leave your information with the city clerk, this way, because it's hard to,
Mm-hmm.
dig into the weeds in this kind of format right here. But Josh, will you be able to reach out to her and?
Sure, absolutely. I'll work with the Public Works Director.
Okay.
Ensure they reach out, and I'll make sure we report back to the City Commission on progress.
Okay,
Okay,
Or
thank you
status.
so much.
thank you
for
very
everything.
much. Yep. Anyone else wish to be heard? All right, so now we're going to move to the consent agenda, and I have 13 items, so let me just knock these out real quick. So the first one is approval of the December 16 City Commission meeting minutes. Second is approval of the purchase of a John Deere 3035D 66 horsepower hydro open station tractor from EFE for $51,000 for the Streets Division. Number 3, approval of the purchase of a Ford T250 medium roof cargo van from Duval Ford for $56,000 for the Leisure Services Department. 4, approval of the purchase of 4 Gravely Pro Turn 660 mowers from Choo Choo Lawn Equipment for $58,000. 5, approval of the purchase of a 2025 Chevy Silverado 3500 HD Crew Cab dump truck from Allen J Automotive Management for $73,000 for the Parks Division. 6, approval of a stormwater pipe lining on 10th Avenue South and 4th Street South, contract by Vortex Companies for $32,500 with a 5% contingency. Number 7, approval of a stormwater pipe lining at Marshall Street, contract by Vortex Companies for a total of $41,000. Number 8, approval of a sanitary sewer pipe lining at Harbor Woods Drive, contract by Vortex Companies for $30,000. Number 9, approval of an agreement with the Harbor Woods Pump Station Rehabilitation, for the Harbor Woods Pump Station Rehabilitation with the Florida Utility Solutions, Inc. in the amount of $34,000. Number 10, approval of a sanitary sewer manhole lining contract by Vortex Companies for 10th Avenue South and 4th Street South for a total of $50,000. Number 11, approval of the Marina Foundation Emergency Repairs with Professional Foundation Services for $35,000. Number 12, approval of the purchase, delivery, and installation of furniture in the amount of $46,000 from BOS Tampa for the second-story library addition. And number 13, approval of the purchase, delivery, and installation of 150 chairs and storage carts in the amount of $33,000 from BOS Tampa for the second-story library addition. Does anyone want to pull any of these?
Yes, 2, 3, 4, and 5, I just have a quick question.
Anyone else? Okay, do we have a motion for items 1, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13?
And 1, move approval.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Yeah, the only question I had for 2, 3, 4, and 5, were those all replacement vehicles?
All replacement vehicles.
All right. Do we attempt, we got a lot of people here, they probably want to know, because that's a lot of money we're spending for replacement vehicles. Do we take some of the vehicles that are no longer going to be used and part them out or try and auction them off or
We
something?
auction them off through GovDeals, online auction house, and that's where we place all of our surplus equipment and vehicles.
All right, so we attempt to reduce the cost at
Correct.
the end of the day. Okay, that's all I had, thank you.
Since you're sitting up here, a question on the pipelining for the wastewater and sewer. There were several of those. Is that storm-related from all the storms, or is that scheduled maintenance?
So we have one that's storm-related, and that's on Marshall Street. And the others, one is actually was damaged by Duke Energy. So we are aligning that and have sought reimbursement from Duke Energy for that project. And the other two are just regular maintenance items.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any further questions?
Move approval of 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Next up, public hearings. We have ordinance 2024-17 on first reading.
Yes. An ordinance of the City of Safety Harbor, Florida, providing for the zoning designation of recently annexed property 2024-31 AN/CO located at 517 Waddell Drive, Safety Harbor, Florida, finding the request consistent with the review standards of Section 226.03 of the Safety Harbor Comprehensive Zoning and Land Development Code, and providing for an effective date, and this is presented for first reading.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. For the record, Cecilia Trinca, planner and GIS analyst. So before you is a zoning assignment for 517, oh yes, it's,
Mayor, you swear me.
sworn in.
Oh, sorry, this is a quasi-judicial hearing, so are there any interested parties that are going to speak on behalf of this item? Okay, has anyone up here had any ex parte communication with the applicant? No. All right, so I think you need to be sworn in then.
You swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you. Before you is a zoning assignment for 517 Woodall Drive. This is a zoning assignment following the annexation because the property was recently annexed into the city and it doesn't have a zoning designation yet. So the ordinance number 2020-431 is to assign an appropriate zoning designation to this property. So here's an area of the map. This is a single-family residential property located within a single-family residential district. And the site is about 0.251 acres, and the future land use designation is residential low. So the property, again, is incorporated and doesn't have a zoning designation yet. All the surrounding uses are R2 single-family residential. So we also took a look at a consistency matrix. When the future land use is residential low, R2 designation is consistent with our consistency matrix. So staff proposed to assign R2 single-family residential to this property. So today is the first reading, and the second reading is scheduled on February the 3rd. The Planning and Zoning Board reviewed the ordinance and unanimously recommended approval of adoption of the zoning ordinance on first reading. So tonight, the City Commission may approve or deny ordinance number 2024-17 on first reading. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Anyone from the audience wish to be heard on this item? Any questions or discussion or a motion?
I'll move approval of ordinance number 2024-17 on first reading.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Thanks, Cecilia.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to old business. We have a Hurricane Helene Milton recovery and restoration update.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. The post-emergency recovery period for Hurricane Helene began on Monday, September 30th, 2024, and will conclude on Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025, to allow for the completion of all Category A and B work, which includes protective measures and debris cleanup. The post-emergency recovery period for Milton began on Monday, October 14th, 2024, and will conclude on Monday, February 10th, 2025, to also allow for the completion of Category A and Category B work. Post-emergency recovery period objectives currently include the maintenance of normal government activities and completing substantial damage assessments, completing FEMA applications for public assistance grants reimbursement, budgeting and planning for future repairs, approving public infrastructure repair projects, and coordinating with our insurance carrier for possible covered damages. I'd like to brief the City Commission on two brief updates. The first, the pier on salvaging, demolition, and reconstruction. The pier is, Public Works has been working with the state, and I believe we got notification today that the state will be assigning the salvage and demo of the pier to a third-party contractor called Ashbrit. We're in constant communication with the state to get that done weekly, and Renee Cooper gets updates routinely on this progress, but we don't have a set time frame on when that actual salvage or demo will happen.
But does that mean the state is picking up the tab for it?
That's what we believe, yes. So we'll continue to work with the state on it, and that is the goal. Just as a reminder to the City Commission, the pier design was approved by the City Commission in 2022. Staff is currently working to go out to bid for reconstruction. However, we cannot do so until bid documents are edited based on Ashbrit's detailed scope of work for the salvage and demo, which have yet to be received. Regardless, as stated before, once construction is approved by the City Commission after we go out to bid, from the time that approval happens, the reconstruction of the pier is scheduled to be 12 to 18 months for that total project. Also at this time, we got notification from Shoemaker and Associates, our lobbyists, that our appropriation request for funds to support the reconstruction has been sponsored by Senator Hooper and Representative Anderson, and will be in the 2025 state legislation process. The next item, and I'll, go ahead, Commissioner, I'm sorry.
Has Ashbrook been out? Have they looked at the site and everything, or?
I believe representatives from the state, Ashford has been out on site.
So,
Do we need to get an extension on the previous approval we made for the construction? In other words, is there a period of time we've got to start
So
once we've approved it?
So I'll let Renee jump in too, but the city commission has not approved, affirmed. City commission has not approved a firm to do construction. You've only approved, engineering plans to do it, which will then go out to bid at a later date.
Okay.
So the permits that we have in place currently for the pier design, they last a couple of years, and we can go for extensions if needed. I was in contact with Ashford today, and they're finishing a job actually in Madeira Beach, doing some demo on some municipal piers there or marina areas. And they plan to hopefully start with us maybe next week. So if you see about 25 different staff members in the water, they're retrieving all of the debris that has been sunk. So Ashford came out last week during a low tide event, actually walked the area and saw where the debris was. So they're planning accordingly to bring the right amount of staff and equipment. They'll actually drop, I think, 2 barges. They plan to enter in Philippi Park with their barges in order to bring the manpower and equipment in order to salvage all the material that is sunk. So this first crew that is coming in will remove the waterborne debris, the debris in the waterway, and then there will be a second crew that actually takes care of the pilings. Now this first initial crew will actually cut anything that's left hanging off the pilings, cut and remove that to just leave the pilings in place. So we'll wait on a secondary crew to come remove those pilings, and that's much larger equipment than what they're bringing to actually remove the debris from the waterway.
So, great work, thank you. So, is it confirmed that the state's paying for this now?
So this is a state contractor.
Uh-huh.
It's not our contractor, it's a state contractor, and we just have to give them authorization to work here. It's very similar to some of the services we receive from the state doing debris removal. We'd requested a mission through the state EOC. The state EOC had granted it, and then sent us 6 claw trucks for our disposal for use of debris removal, and we will not be charged for those trucks. The state is actually seeking reimbursement. So we have to give up the right for reimbursement and leave that to the state. And we had previously, at a commission meeting, had you sign an agreement with the state, was an MOU stating just that if they provide services, we will not seek reimbursement through FEMA.
So this is a big deal, because before we secured this contract with the state, we were going out to bid on this, and we were getting quotes back for $4 million.
Correct.
Which was crazy and way out of the budget, so thank you for that. And I know there's some chatter online about what's taken so long to get the pier replaced, and it was always going to, as Josh was saying, it was always going to be a long time, but we're also trying to have someone else foot the bill on this, and as Josh said, we're trying to get the state now to foot a lot of the bill for the reconstruction of the pier. So, I mean, we do have a trade-off up here, whether we foot the bill ourselves and get it done quicker, or get a lot of free money and maybe take a little bit longer. So thank you for that.
Sure.
The other item I wanted to update on was, and actually get some direction on if the city commission decides on it. So working with Vicki Gilly, our finance director, we're starting to receive calls from residents who had questions about their water bill. So these are residents that, due to the storms, Helene and or Milton, they're unable to live in their residence. So they're not using any water. But they're also in a predicament where they do not desire to cut service. So what I would, seeking the city commission, prompting the city commission that perhaps they give staff direction. We have an ordinance that gives a base service fee for residential water service, which is about $20 to $30 a month. If the city commission is interested, I'll go back and work with staff, and we'll propose a resolution for additional relief for those residents who have been severely impacted by the storm, to waive their base service fees for water meter use for a time certain.
How many households are you talking about?
So right now, we've gotten less than 5 calls, but as our substantial damage assessment team is going to be out more so over the next couple months, we may get some additional letters. But I would say that when we did our damage assessment, I'd have to look at our total destroyed homes, but we have gotten some calls at finance about that.
I have no problem waiving the fee.
I have no problem, as long as we
We'll
have a
discuss
control
it.
on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
I mean,
Anyone else?
we didn't, I don't think we had a conversation about this. I don't think we're allowed to waive the fees. So I think
Okay.
we'll have to explore some other options
Okay.
on what we could do to offer some relief.
All right, not a problem. If it's an interest of the commission to explore ways to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Happy to do.
is that all?
Yes, sir.
All right, anyone from the audience wish to be
Hang
heard
on.
on?
I wanted to back up to the pier just a second,
Oh,
if
sorry,
that's
yeah.
okay, all that update was going. So I know we talked a lot, I'm really excited about the debris removal and maybe getting that for free. But just, I want to talk about the reconstruction. You know, I know we had a brief discussion up here on, you know, the reconstruction was approved last year, and we wanted to kind of stay the course with the rebuilding as is, with the wider walkway out there. I still am a fan of that idea personally, but I know I've been trying to poll some residents since there's been a lot of chatter around the community about why don't we build something that's bigger, better, different design, you name it. Now, I can tell you the impromptu poll that I've taken as I've run into residents, which is, do we want to stay the course and get this done as fast as possible with the permits that we've already acquired? Or do we want to go back to the drawing board and entertain new design options that's going to really increase the amount of time it takes to get something out there? Which would you rather? And I've had some mixed opinions out there. I would say the majority of people that I've talked to still want to stay the course and get the pier that they've known and loved rebuilt. But I also just, watching this process unfold, you know, the discussion from last year that it was approved didn't really appear to be a discussion. It was a consent item agenda that went through. So I don't think we've done what we had an opportunity to do, which is open up for some public opinion on a design. So we may be in a little bit of a lull here as we're seeking our, you know, we're getting it removed by the state. We're putting ourselves in position to make the most of it before we approve the next contract or something like that. Is there an opportunity to pull this back in front and allow some public opinion to enter in for design?
I guess that might be a question for Renee, just to say, I mean, there's always an opportunity. I guess the question is, what would that do to the schedule? I mean, because we'd have to reapply for the permits, and I don't know how, and I know you're just,
So I'm just gonna stay up here for the rest of the meeting.
yeah.
You look comfortable.
So the pier, we are limited in the location and the size in which we can construct the pier. We only have a certain amount of space for submerged land lease and a certain amount of land that we own. So the state has limited us in actually the size and in construction of the pier. We were told very early on that if we were to seek something other than replacing the existing with near-like, it was going to be difficult for us to get that permitted. So we stayed the course and made it a little bit wider, but it is still the same length and adding a few additional features. But it's still going to be the same type of pier that we had, just better.
So the pilings will probably be in the same spot, so they'll just be a little.
No, they'll be a little wider.
Oh, really? Okay.
And they won't be exactly in the right place, depending upon how they remove those pilings, whether they pull them or whether they cut them off at the surface, will set really where the new piling locations will go.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? Is that perhaps why there's the perception that we move fast? Because this speech was shared with us during the deliberative process, right? So we heard about these limitations. It's not that we just said, this is what we want next.
Right, so when we brought forth the design consultant contract in order to get the pier engineered and designed, so we had limitations, and we knew those limitations going into it. And so did the designer, so we did not give them any type of direction to move outside of the parameters that we already had set forth.
Thank you.
Anything else? Is that good?
No, yeah, we don't have to decide on anything now. I was just hoping for an opportunity to maybe let some voices be heard in an official capacity here if we had, not that, without it delaying us, like we can still stay the course and allow some opinions to come in, but knowing the limitations, thank you for that. There might not be as big of an opportunity for any kind of redesign as we think.
Did you see, sorry,
Go
did
ahead.
you see the email that we received from Paul Orlando with like a graphic depiction of a kind of like a two-story pier?
I did not see the graphic depiction.
The footprint looks very similar.
It's like, it would be the same, almost the same, I mean, I can't tell if it's bigger, but something like that, if the footprint were the same, do we still anticipate that would require a lot more permitting?
We'd have to go back through re-permitting, so any redesign would require re-permitting or modification of the current permit, which of course lengthens the duration that it would take to get us under construction.
Do you remember roughly how long the permitting process was?
18 months,
Okay.
almost 2 years for the permitting. We started the permitting as soon as we had a 30%, 60% design. We sent those in for permitting just because all of the agencies have an opportunity. The Army Corps has an opportunity, DEP has an opportunity, everybody has an opportunity to feed back into questions and responses. And every time they send you a question and you have to respond, they reset the timeline. So then it gives them longer to actually review the permit.
So we wouldn't be able to submit a new permit until we submitted a new design.
Correct.
Okay, so we would clearly be pushing the time frame back by potentially, I don't know, 6 months or a year or maybe more.
Probably a year to 2 years, you push that time frame back.
Okay, all right.
Because my question, excuse me, is about the design. Wouldn't we have to put a new design out for bid as well?
So we have consultants on contract through our CCNA contract that we have about every 5 years. And these consultants are doing work for us under that contract. So we wouldn't have to put it out to bid for a consultant. We choose the consultant and work with them on the scope and the pricing, and then we move forward with design. So we currently have one that has been working on this design since day one. And they've also been working on the boat race as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think and where I was going with just the opportunity is, we could have this discussion publicly, and if it was overwhelming that there was a tolerance to expand the timeline in order to get a design that might be more favorable for everybody else, we could consider it. It's not going to, and if we decide against it, we didn't lose any time on staying the course. But it might be worth inviting the public in on it.
If the city, my recommendation is that if we wanted to have that conversation, it would be sooner rather than later. So as this project is going forward, and then as staff is working to redo the bid docs for reconstruction that go out. So if the city commission would want this put on as an agenda item, and publicized again for discussion and just a review of the design, and also some if-thens, if certain paths were taken, just to sort of give the reaction to possible actions by the city commission from staff. We'd be happy to put that together.
I mean, I think we could have the discussions as long as everybody's agreeable here to possibly extend another 1.5 to 2 years. And I just don't think that's
I'd like to
reasonable.
move forward with what was approved.
What's that?
I'd like to just continue moving forward with what was approved. I think, we years ago discussed adding like a boat ramp at the end so people could dock. I mean, there's the problem you run up against is the environmental protection issues and the seagrasses, et cetera. So you're stuck with, I guess, the plan or the area in which the pier already existed, if you want to go beyond that. And I think if you go up and build a second story or make it, I mean, remember, the next hurricane coming through may just, take the new pier. So I'd like to stick with the basic pier that we had there before. I know a lot of people want to do something different, but I think I'd I'd like to just keep it moving the way it is, but that's kind of how I feel.
I think I'm on board with moving forward, but what I would say is, you know, even though we don't make it an agenda item, you know, you could still engage the community, whether it be through social media or, you know, other ways, you know, and if there's an overwhelming desire, you know, that's, you know, we could discuss it again. All right, anyone from the audience wish to be heard on this agenda item?
I would, real quick? Oh, go ahead. Marty Schumacher, 206 3rd Avenue North. With regard to the, I guess, waiver of maybe some utility fees, I would just, you know, if we're gonna do something like that, make sure it's very specific, either it's around the storm thing. I know, we're rebuilding our house, we tore the house down in June, I called the city and said, hey, can we put some of these fees, came down to City Hall, the utility said, well, we'll look at it, I never heard a thing, so we continue to pay our water, our sewer, our garbage, all that stuff, and, you know, as long as that's the rule for everybody, I'm cool with that. I mean, I understand that a hurricane is different than me deciding to tear a house down, but if we're gonna look at any kind of change to that policy, I think you might wanna look at all eventualities or all reasons that maybe those fees could be in abeyance. Thanks.
Thank you.
Gary Granata, 2370 Ray Jell Avenue. The only comment I would make about the pier issue that you're discussing is, remember, not only are you looking at the extension of time, and I've been involved in these kinds of projects. The other thing is, I don't know what your reimbursement situation is now. If anyone was going to reimburse you for a dock and pier, it would be for what was there, not the improvements that you make. And those improvements, by the time you make them, will probably be that $4 million that you're trying to avoid from before. Thank you.
He actually has a good point, because we've submitted for the money from the state to rebuild it, and that would change that request too.
Yes, sir.
Okay, anyone else wish to be heard? All right. So we don't need to vote on this one.
No, sir.
All right, so new business, item number 1. I'm looking for approval to purchase a new 10.8 fire and safety, or a heavy-duty Pierce Velocity pumper for $1.2 million.
All right, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, and City Manager. For the record, Andrew Hawkins, Fire Chief. This is a request for the fire department to purchase a new fire engine, which would replace a 21-year-old apparatus, which has reached its useful life for the city. The proposed purchase would be consistent with our current make and model of existing fire apparatus, which allow for personnel to be trained once and easily assigned to either station, without concern for operating different apparatus types. The vehicle would be stocked with needed equipment to allow fire engines to respond and mitigate EMS incidents, structure fires, traffic incidents, and other life-threatening emergencies. The vehicle will also be provided with the most up-to-date safety standards for our personnel and include more environmentally conscious features, such as more fuel-efficient motor and diesel emission fluids that reduces emissions for diesel engines. The unit being replaced, along with outstanding loose equipment, will be disposed of according to city asset disposal policies. Staff is requesting approval to engage in sole source purchase with 10.8 Fire and Safety LLC for heavy-duty Pierce Velocity pumper and the amount of $1,199,343. The fire department has received no public feedback or inquiries regarding this purchase since tonight's agenda was published. I've put together a small presentation that should answer some of your questions, and myself and Deputy Chief Hummer are here to answer any additional questions that you may have. So tonight I'd like to discuss our heavy apparatus replacement program, the improved safety standards of the new engine pumper, the county foundational units and reimbursement funding, and new fire engine build and funding. So our current heavy apparatus replacement program, 7-year fire engine replacement. After 7 years, the fire engine would become a reserve apparatus. At 10 years, the ladder truck would be replaced. After 10 years, the ladder truck would be traded in and replaced with a new ladder truck. The National Fire Protection Association recommends that apparatus be retired after 20 years of age. So frontline Safety Harbor heavy apparatus average about 10 to 12,000 miles per year, and that's currently engine 5.2 and truck 5.3. Our reserve fire apparatus average about 3 to 5,000 miles per year. So the fire engine to reserve, the goal is to have that fire engine go to reserve at 7 years with about 70 to 80,000 miles on it. And then again, the ladder truck would be replaced at the 10-year mark with an average of 100 to 120,000 miles. So why is mileage and age important? It's the cost to maintain and repair, and it's also the resale value. So cost to maintain and repair from fiscal year 22 to fiscal year 24 for the fire engines. So fire engine 854, which is the one that we would be replacing, is a 2008 with 99,000 miles on it. And we've had a repair and maintenance cost of $22,833 over those 2 years. 856 is a 2014. It currently has 90,000 miles on it, and it's had a repair and maintenance cost of $63,945. This is higher because this was the primary reserve unit for both stations up until January of last year. And then 859, our newest engine, 2022, currently has 18,000 miles on it, and it has strictly only had maintenance completed at the cost of $6,294. So the ladder truck, 855 is a 2013. It currently has 114,000 miles on it, and we've had a cost of $90,392 in repairs in the last 2 years. So resale value. So there are fire apparatus dealers and brokers, but they will only accept apparatus that are 15 years or newer. So let's talk about the difference between trade-in versus auction. So again, the fire apparatus brokers will only accept apparatus 15 years and newer, which would be a great option for our ladder truck. We can also look at specific specifications that are more desirable for these departments that buy used fire engines. That would be a larger pump that pumps water and also a larger tank of water on that fire engine. Our last fire engine was sent to auction on GovDeals in 2023. It was a 2003 with approximately 130,000 miles and was sold for $17,000. So why 4 rigs? So we currently have four apparatus, 2 primary, 2 reserve, and that's for training. Reserve status, so when those apparatus are being repaired or having maintenance done, we obviously need backups, and then putting them in service, for instance, for storms. So when we had the hurricanes, we had all 4 apparatus in service at one time. So our 2 frontline, engine 5.2, truck 5.3, and then our 2 backup apparatus, our engine 1.52, engine 5.3. So we use these for department training, we use it for new hire training, and also, again, like I said, in service during the maintenance and repairs, and also for the storm units. So the National Fire Protection Agency, talking about safety, safety improvements on the new apparatus. The National Fire Protection Association sets safety standards and recommendation for heavy apparatus. Every few years, they come out with these new standards, and here are a few examples from 2008 to 2024. So increased seat width in the cabs, so actually spreading out the seats and putting a wider seat. Walking and stepping surface standards. Night mode for your warning lights. So I'm sure many of you have been near a fire truck at night with the LED technology. Extremely bright, so it actually goes to half hour at night, so you're not blinded as you approach those vehicles either in the intersection. And then backup cameras are mandatory, and that's for the safety of everyone. So Pierce also does a great job with safety standards, and they have recently included what they call the Haas alert system, and it's on all new apparatus since 2020. The HOS Alert is a collision avoidance technology that sends real-time digital alerts to nearby motorists via mobile navigation apps and vehicle infotainment screens when a Pierce fire truck is approaching. So if you're using any navigation, Google Maps, anything like that, it will alert you that a fire truck is approaching. It also will alert you if another fire truck is approaching your fire truck. So for instance, our neighboring departments, Clearwater, Palm Harbor, Eastlake, Tarpon Springs, and Largo all have these HOS devices. So talking about foundational units in Pinellas County, so Engine 5.2 and Truck 5.3 are considered foundational units, and that means that they are placed in a certain area, and we have 2 in our city for geographical area and also for call volume. So these units are reimbursed by Pinellas County EMS and Fire, and 1 firefighter paramedic is funded for each unit. The City of Safety Harbor is reimbursed the percentage of unincorporated area within the city, which is 5.38% according to our fire and EMS contract with Pinellas County. So talk about the build of the new engine. Pierce Manufacturing currently has a 49 to 52 month delivery from the approval of the contract, and this is similar to the ladder truck that we purchased in 2022. We have the option to purchase now and pay at delivery. So the advantage to order now is we would take delivery in 2029, maintain our heavy apparatus replacement program. 854 is the 2008, and it has to go in 2029 due to the NFPA standards. The cost of the apparatus is locked into today's pricing. Pierce Manufacturing has an estimated 8% increase each year, with the next estimated increase of 2% next month, February of 2025. So the new engine is currently funded in the fiscal year 28-29 CIP, and that CIP is funded by Penny for Pinellas. So City Commission, the staff recommends approval to engage in a sole source purchase with 10-8 Fire and Safety LLC for a heavy-duty Pierce Velocity pumper in the amount of $1,199,343. Any questions?
I think you anticipated a lot of the questions and got ahead of this a little bit.
Tried to, yes, sir.
We've done this before.
So this has been the fire engine that we've been discussing the last couple of years that needs to be purchased?
Discussed it several months ago.
Yeah, a couple months ago, we started the discussion. The one you might be thinking of, we currently have a ladder truck on order. We ordered that ladder truck in 2022. We will not take delivery until 2026.
And that's when we have to finish paying
Yeah.
that. That's the one I was thinking about.
Yes, sir.
So this is the second one, okay.
Yes, sir.
And what's the next one after that?
That's a good question.
It would be 2035.
2035, okay.
So similar to, Chief, if you don't mind me jumping in, when we bought the ladder truck a couple years ago, we booked that towards reserves. It's in the CIP for when we take delivery, but we booked it towards reserves. This would be the similar element, but we would book the percentage. The contract, if the city commission decides to sign it tonight, the contract has benchmarks that we would owe at certain times. So we will work with finance to book those numbers towards reserves going forward.
So work in process.
Correct. Correct.
Can I ask a question? Even though you're saying book them toward reserves, am I hearing that we're getting the money from Penny?
We're getting we will get 5.38% from Pinellas County.
Okay, from Penny for Pinellas.
If we still, right now, 5.38, am I missing?
Pinellas County's 5.38. Penny for Pinellas.
Right, I'm sorry, it is. This will be in CIP. It'll be penny for Pinellas money.
Okay, so it's not coming out of reserves? It's just.
The 5% is the
Okay.
percentage of the
Okay.
unincorporated area
Right.
of Safety Harbor that we service that we get reimbursed.
Correct.
But it's coming out of Penny for Pinellas at the end.
When we pay for it, yes, sir.
The
We have to
purchase of
book it
this
against the
engine.
reserves in order to place the order.
So it's sort of like a holding.
Correct.
Yeah, like that's what allowed, because we're placing the order 50 months out.
And
So we got to show we have this
paid.
money in reserves to pay for it, but we can get it from the
Right,
penny
that's
funds.
what we do
when
with
they
the
come in.
ladder truck.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Right.
All right, any other questions for Chief? Anyone from the audience wish to be heard on this item? All right, Thank you, Chief. Do we have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. All right, new business number 2, and I suspect that's why some of you may be here tonight, is the management and maintenance options for private sections of Bishop and Mullet Creek.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. City staff continues to receive reports of and requests for the city to mitigate private property erosion occurring within the city of Safety Harbor, predominantly in 2 residential areas abutting Bishop Creek and Mullet Creek. Bishop Creek is the northernmost creek and is bound by State Road 580 to the north and Enterprise Road to the south. Mullet Creek is found in the central and southern areas of the city located south of Enterprise Road and ending just north of Jefferson Street. Both Bishop and Mullet Creeks discharge directly into Old Tampa Bay. This evening, following presentations will be provided. Engineering Director Michelle Giuliani will give a brief presentation on current project initiatives, including the creation of a master database and erosion damage rating program, as well as an update on private party permits approved for private creek management. Kimberly Horn will give a brief presentation on their project work scope proposals constructed based on the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers study provided to the city in 2023. And then lastly, Public Works Director Renee Cooper will present on the management and maintenance of public sections of Bishop Creek and Mullet Creek. And then I'll provide 2 options on forward direction for the management of the private sections of creeks.
Good evening. For the record, Michelle Giuliani, Engineering Director. Since we met in November with the update in this, since we met in November last year, December 2024, Kimberly Horn, our CCNA consultant, presented us with their individual project orders for preliminary design phase and construction services for the areas of concern that were done by the U.S. Army Corps, which included Rainbow Farms, Harbor Woods Village, East and West, and Fifth Street Pond. They will present that to you next. Our action items so far, I'm working with Kimberly Horn to develop an assessment of creek erosion for both Bishop and Mullet Creek. City engineering staff, we continue to receive excavation and fill permit applications for private property repairs to creek bank damage that occurred during the 3 hurricanes on private property for both Mullet and Bishop Creek. These residents are hiring their own engineer for permitting and design and contractor for work. Staff is currently researching existing matching grant programs between local government and private landowners and other local government jurisdictions. And we have a database in production for private property ownership of the creeks. Our analyst, our GIS analyst, Cecilia Chen, has put together our individual properties showing the creek, Bishop Creek, starting at 580, continuing southeast in the North Bay Hills neighborhoods, continuing east to the bay, and the south tributary of Bishop Creek from McMullen east through the Harbor Woods Village and continue to the bay. The same with Mullet Creek, continuing from McMullen Booth east along Fernery Lane through the Huntingtons and continuing into the bay. So we have an overall map that we'll be showing you during this presentation as well. These are the individual parcels, residents with the creek directions. The budget, as we discussed last time, to prioritize unfunded public infrastructure projects from the Watershed Management Plan and Vulnerability Study. We currently have $900,000 for design this fiscal year, and $580,000 will remain for next fiscal year. We have an estimate of $5 million for construction that's unfunded, and this includes maintenance cost. I can, Kimberly Horn, our consultant, will go ahead and present the individual project orders that they have provided us from the Army Corps study.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John Sutton. I'm a water resources engineer with Kimley Horn. I'm going to present to you today a little bit about the 3 IPOs we've designated for the Bishop Mullet Creek bank stabilization. A little bit of background before we get further. Bishop Mullet Creek had historical amounts of erosion going back from major storm events all the way to your mean annual rainfall event. Exacerbated erosion conditions at adjacent properties. 2022, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers was contracted to conduct a study that finalized in 2023, highlighting several key problem areas that Michelle listed earlier, that have resulted in the identification of the Rainbow Farms Drive sites, the Harbor Wood Drive sites, and the Fifth Street Pond sites. Pardon me. This study did have several data gaps. For one, the Army Corps was not willing to sign and seal this, which indicates that it's probably not suitable for design services. Additionally, the study included no survey of existing crossings of the creeks, no geotech or environmental concerns, especially with wetlands within the creek itself or designated waters of the state. So, that being said, there are several goals in mind here that we think this project can achieve. Chiefly, it will be the design and construction of erosion mitigation solutions within select sites, and will produce a suitable model that can be used to identify further sites and have those prepped and ready for design phases in the future. To accomplish these goals, there are several proposed activities. Namely, there are chiefly 3 IPOs here, individual project orders. Starting first with the preliminary engineering report, which goes into the design phase and the limited construction phase services. Why we split these into 3 phases is because we want to make sure that we're measuring twice, cutting once here, especially with this preliminary engineering report. We want to make sure that the proposed solutions that are identified at these sites are suited for the problems observed in a manner that is respective of the cost and the benefits. So once a selected alternative is made for each site, they will move into the design phase, where we'll begin easement coordinations. These are temporary construction easements that allow us to actually construct these things. From there, we will conduct the actual design and permitting efforts with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and the Water Management District. Afterwards will be the limited construction phases where everything actually gets put in the ground. We'll assist you with the bid process, we'll address requests for additional information, and we'll review and approve shop drawings. Generally, we want this entire process to be an incredibly transparent method, so we've included detailed and extensive public engagement sessions at each phase to inform the public and make sure that they're getting their 2 cents in. So the anticipated timeline and fees here are presented for the worst case scenario. If we have to go for something as extensive and as serious as sheet pile walls for the entire width, that's the most expensive option. That's going to also have the highest timeline associated with it. We're looking somewhere in the range of about $1.2 million as an estimated fee to conduct all IPOs, and a timeline of about 40 months to have these things constructed in the ground. Yes. Note that these fees, especially for the design fee, assumes that worst case scenario. In the event that you can use something like a rolled erosion protection mat, a turf reinforcement, or something more serious like riprap, for example, that would reduce the design cost substantially. It would reduce the limited phase construction services substantially. Hence why IPO number 1 is to get this right before you can start digging.
I got a question. Go back.
Yes, sir.
So IPO number 3, 40 months, $200,000?
Yes, so this is, this contract is specifically geared towards an hourly not to exceed. So we will be out on site, observing the construction, making sure that it's done to the design. This is 40 months from notice to proceed of IPO number 1.
Oh, this is just for the observation of the construction?
It's for responding to the request for additional information. It's also preparing the bid package.
Okay. Okay, you can continue.
Perfect. So that's the gist of it. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Hold on. Listen, if this is going to work better, we're going to go through, we got a few presentations on here. So,
I have a question.
okay, so we'll open up for the commission for questions, but the audience, we're going to wait till we get through all the presentations.
Okay. So we were, I guess, provided a legend or a map.
Yes, sir.
And so as far as the contract you are presenting tonight for the work to be done, is that just the city of Safety Harbor areas on the map? Because it distinguishes between private creek ownership and city ownership.
No, sir. So
Okay.
on Bishop Creek, this portion extends from that city-owned portion
Okay.
up to about Rainbow Farms Drive. There's a small gap between Hargett Lane and the discharge
Okay.
of that stormwater retention facility.
All right.
On Mullet Creek, those areas are relegated to the city property around Fifth Street Pond.
Okay. All right.
Excellent.
All right,
Thank
thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
So what we're going to do is, just to keep things moving, is we're going to go through all the presentations, then we're going to open up to the audience to ask questions and give feedback. Okay? Yeah.
Good evening again, Renee Cooper, Public Works Director. So I'm going to go through all of our creeks here in the city of Safety Harbor, go through maintenance that we do and other requirements. So first, a lot of people don't know that we actually have 4 creeks that run through the city of Safety Harbor: Briar Creek, Bishop Creek, Mullet Creek, and Alligator Creek. So let's start with Briar Creek, Possum Branch. Briar Creek Possum Branch is located in the northernmost section of the city, north of State Road 580. You can find this creek in the Briar Creek Mobile Home Park, adjacent to Means Countryside Hospital, and behind other private properties. So the map that you have sitting on the dais is the entire city map, but I have broken it out in this presentation for each individual location. So the ownership map shows by color who owns the certain sections of the creek, whether it's Clearwater County, private, Safety Harbor, DOT, or the Water Management District. And you can see in Briar Creek, there's no yellow and there's no city ownership of this creek. So let's go to Bishop Creek. Bishop Creek is located between State Road 580 and Enterprise Road. Creek flows through private properties, HOA-owned properties, city property, Pinellas County property, and as with Briar Creek, the creek empties into Old Tampa Bay. So here's a breakout of that particular map. And you can see the small sections of ownership of the city. The one large section you see there on the bottom right-hand side is adjacent to our North City Park. So that's why you see that, it's within the city parcel. We have other small locations that we own, and those are roadway culverts, where the creek actually flows through. And we have one larger section on North Bay Hills Boulevard, and that's also piped conveyance of the creek from one side of the road to the other.
Can you show what colors mean, what each color means? We can't quite tell.
We can't see it.
We can't do the light.
I don't think we can enlarge.
Yellow, purple.
So yeah, so the yellow is City of Safety Harbor, green is Clearwater, county is purple, blue is private, DOT is kind of the pink color, and then the orange is the Water Management District.
Okay.
Okay. So Mullet Creek. Mullet Creek is located between Enterprise Road and Main Street. The creek flows through private properties, HOA-owned properties, city property, and Pinellas County property. The city happens to own more of this creek than any other within the city. The section of creek that empties into Old Tampa Bay is north of Waterfront Park. So you can see here, once again, the yellow, the colors are the same as the other maps. Green is Clearwater, purple is county, blue is private, yellow is Safety Harbor. The purple pink is FDOT, and then the orange is Swiftmud. You can see the locations that the city owns are either on city right-of-way or city-owned property. The same that's here, and then around our Fifth Street Pond that they were just referring to, and then Mullet Creek Park. So we have more sections of this creek that we own than any others in the city. So Alligator Creek. Alligator Creek is located in the southernmost section of the city, passing under State Road 590, and unlike the other 3 creeks, Alligator Creek flows directly into Alligator Lake. Gator Lake then discharges into Old Tampa Bay. Creek sections are a mix of private, FDOT, and Pinellas County. You'll see on the map, the city owns only one pipe section on Oak Ridge Drive, or Oak Ridge Road, and the bridge on South Bay Shore Boulevard. So you can see here, you have South Bay Shore, and then we have a very small section right up here at Oak Ridge. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about maintenance responsibilities, and those are kind of tied around the 2012 Stormwater Maintenance Operation Guidelines that were approved by the City Commission in September 2012, along with our standard operating procedures that has been approved by FDEP through our MPDS program. So let's go through the Stormwater Maintenance Operation Guidelines first. The guidelines state that the city will complete flow line work on city-owned property or property where the city has right of access via dedicated city easement. An easement does not assign ownership to the city, nor does it assign maintenance responsibility. Flow line work includes clearing vegetation that is determined to pose an impediment to natural flow of the creek. So the guidelines are pretty specific in what operations the city will and will not undertake, and we will not undertake removing blockages from waterways on private property where a city dedicated easement does not exist, monitoring or maintaining private infrastructure, performing maintenance on erosion issues caused by natural flow of creeks, completing any construction, maintenance, or repairs on any private property, and completing maintenance and litter removal on any non-city-owned properties. So our SOPs really kind of take into account the stormwater operation guidelines. So the city's MPDS program is audited about every 4 years by FDEP. During these audits, FDEP reviews and approves the city's standard operating procedures. The SOP includes creek inspections, frequency, time frame, as well as what the city is inspecting and level of maintenance. The SOPs state that the Stormwater Division does not perform maintenance on erosion issues caused by the natural flow of the creeks. So what have we done today, and where are we looking to go? So Public Works is currently completing our creek inspections. We have a contractor that is dredging Mullet Creek at Harbor Lake Drive, which is a city-owned property. Public Works has procured quotes for dredging, clearing flow line in private sections of the creek, Bishop Creek and Mullet Creek, and staff are researching private property stormwater grant programs. So then we go to next steps, and we have a couple of items that we wish to discuss and get some guidance on the next steps.
Thanks, Renee. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. So at this point, we provide you two exclusive options, and staff is looking for further direction. The first one is to direct staff to create a private stormwater improvement grant program. We would utilize current ARPA funding already budgeted for creek design and construction. Such grant programs are found in other cities across Florida and appear to be successful, continuing year to year. Most of them include a 50-50 matching grant with grant maximums or caps. This alleviates legal challenges of the city to perform work on private property and the need to obtain easements. This can fulfill possibly an immediate need for property owners to address erosion concerns sooner rather than later. It's expected that staff can complete a program manual and process during this current fiscal year. We may also be able to apply for state, federal, and local grants to help support this type of program. Another option is to direct staff to formalize a task order with Kimley Horn for engineering, design, permitting, and construction services. This approval of the task order will come back to the commission if you decide for us to go this route for approximately $1.2 million. This would also utilize ARPA funding. The project is not currently budgeted beyond fiscal year 26. This may involve legal challenges with private property owners and easements. Time, this is going to take a while. The design and permitting can take up to 2 years. This doesn't include all creek sections either. This refers to the Army Corps of Engineer report. It does not address Briar Creek or Alligator Creek issues. Additional grant funding for this type of work may be more difficult. It is within private property. There's also staff concern about ongoing obligations by the city for long-term maintenance and costs related to this
So
option.
it would incur sections of the creek, certain sections of the creek that were addressed by the Army Corps of Engineer that are on private property?
Correct. We
understand
would work with legal on that,
Okay.
to go that route. Mayor, city staff requests the city commission provide future direction on the management and maintenance for private sections of Bishop and Muller Creek.
Any questions? I'll leave this slide up here for further discussion.
So those two options don't seem mutually exclusive. One is, on the grant one, that we would maybe match 50/50, that would be for actual improvements. The second option is really just for engineering, design, and construction services. Okay, sorry.
However, I had the same question. Are these mutually exclusive?
So they both draw from the same funds right now.
And what do we have left budgeted for this? Because I
Yeah.
know we have ARPA funds, but I thought we used all of that. Do we have leftover ARPA funds for this?
So we have 900,000 for fiscal year '25 and 580,000 for fiscal year '26. These are funds that were from ARPA.
Okay, so 900 and 500, so 1.4. But I saw on a previous slide, total construction could be 5 million.
Correct. The design alone could be up to design and permitting, geotech and modeling. All of that could come up to 1.2 million, almost utilizing the entire budget that we currently have from ARPA funding for the project.
That's
And then
before you put a
any-
shovel on the ground.
Correct, and all of that is unfunded. So any of the construction costs for the project are currently unfunded. We'd have to find that funding.
I would also state that the Kimley Horn proposal also does not consider ongoing maintenance costs as well.
So option one, if we did that, I would believe if we're doing, it sounds more like a patchwork of, it's short-term, well, I shouldn't say short-term, but it would happen quicker. On private property, we would go in, we would partner with private property owners, but I think we would have to forego a comprehensive plan
So-
because we can't have both going on at the same time.
Correct, so option two is still patchwork. So we are only addressing the locations that were identified by the Army Corps of Engineers, which is not the creek in its entirety. It's the certain portions of the creek that have seen the worst type of erosion. So it's not going in and improving the entire creek from beginning to end through the city.
But it would be comprehensively addressing all of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers recommendations.
Yes,
So it wouldn't be addressing every single property, but it would address 100% of what's in the Army Corps of Engineer report?
it would,
Okay.
as long as we could get permitted and budgeted, correct. And as long as
Right.
the property owners are willing to go through the legal process with us in order to allow construction to happen.
Okay.
In all honesty, I mean, even if we come up with a grant program, I guess design and repair could cost, I would imagine, somewhere between $50,000 to $100,000 for a
So
private owner.
we're seeing on current properties that are doing these improvements, like $25,000 to $60,000 in order to improve their properties, depending upon the type of improvement that's required or needed in that particular location. So if you were to split that by 50/50 grant,
Right.
you could have a maximum of the city paying $30,000 of a $60,000 improvement.
I mean, I'm all for that, but I think the reality is, I don't think people, in the long run, there may be a few people that can afford that, but I think the majority of residents aren't, it's gonna be tough.
Well, just,
Go ahead.
there was a memo that Alan had done many years ago, but the law has not changed. I can resubmit it. But, we are talking about expending public funds for private property owners. And so in order to do that, there needs to be an established public purpose. So that is going to be required in either of these. It is a little bit easier to kind of find that this is serving a public purpose with a grant program where there's, depending, the amounts, the 50%, I think is just what other jurisdictions use. This, body can decide you want to do some other mix of the grant program. It just might be a little bit easier providing that justification of using public funds for essentially a portion of it's a private benefit. So we would really need to establish that public benefit, which I talked to the manager and, we spoke, and either way we go, we can kind of help this commission make that determination, but we'll need to do
Can I
that.
ask a question? So, I imagine people here tonight are affected by the creek. Can I have a show of hands, just for my own purpose? Because of the number of people, all right, so now put your hands down. The number of people, if we had a grant program that would cover between, I guess the cost being between 25 to 60,000, can I have a show of hands of people that would be able to cover the 50% of the grant?
It's not our property.
So I'm assuming
But I think this.
that's a grant. I mean, like I said, I'm all for it, but I just don't see people.
I think the
being able-
50%
So the
is.
50/50 was an example, so the idea would be to direct staff, if that, if that was the option that you wanted to go, staff would come back with a possible, a program, a draft program for the commission to review and evaluate. We've identified that there's programs where they have, 50/50 match or different matches. There could be a cap, there could be without a cap. It could be for those properties that are, the resident is homesteading. You could, so there's various options. It's just an idea for the commission that if that's something they would like to discuss further.
I mean, to me, what this really boils down to is how much grant money is the city gonna get? And whether it be from the state or the federal government, so we know what we're working with.
I think part of it too, would also that the city would fund this in the CIP going forward. We would find a way to fund this ongoing grant program and also seek out grant monies from other agencies.
So in other words, what you're saying is we'd fund it with money from the CIP, and then it'd be a first come, first serve like other grants where once the money runs out, that's it.
Right.
I mean, so we could literally slide the scale and say, we'll pay 80%, but that means it's gonna run out a lot quicker and it'll service less homes, or we could say we're gonna fund 30%, and that would be a lot more homes, but a lot less money per home with a lot less takers probably. But what I keep thinking about is, I know, you sent us an email on this, the county just got an $800 million grant to address, I believe, all the storm recovery that's happened, and they're gonna be in charge of dishing some of that, or all that money out to different cities. So, clearly we're gonna apply and try to get our hands on as much of that money as we can for this, but to me, until we know how much money we're getting, whether it be through that program, but this is brand new, by the way. This $800 million program is brand new. We just found out about this a couple weeks ago. What we've always talked about is, well, let's reach out to our partners with the county, the state, and the federal government to see what kind of money we can get. Now there's a program that we may not have to, get just for us, but until we know how much money we're going to get, to me, it just seems really hard to give, any kind of real direction. And I know a lot of residents are going to be frustrated that this isn't happening a lot quicker, but, and I'd like to hear from the residents, I'd like to hear from everyone up here, but that's just where my head is right now. And we'll open it up, I just want to hear from the commission first, and then we'll open it up to everyone here tonight.
Well, think about this, depending on the amount of funding that we have available, what you could do is you could set it up so that the grant could be, let's say you start at 50, and based on financial disclosure by the resident, you could raise that amount up to maybe an 80% match. So essentially, I mean, there are people on fixed income that don't have the monies to just,
Established criteria.
expend like that. So I think you might be able to come up with a plan that would have a potentially higher reimbursement rate for the repair.
But where are we going to get the money?
That's a good question.
No matter what it is, 20%, 80%, where are we getting our portion? Because that's still unfunded.
It's a hurry up and wait and see what the county does and see what the state does to see if we can get additional monies to fund a grant program. Because right now, we
And that
don't.
would be part of our work too, is to figure out the revenue stream of that and to give the commission options as well, including grants and as well as funding through the CIP.
Well, and right now, if we abandon the Kimley Horn direction, we've got $1.48 million to kick this program off.
Yes, sir.
Right, so I don't know how far that's gonna go. We'll definitely need to get some more money from this $813 million that's coming in.
Right.
Maybe Renee's gonna correct me here.
So as far as state and federal funding goes, we cannot apply for any type of state funding for stormwater improvements until we complete our vulnerability assessment and our watershed management plan. They will be done in 2026. So we're not eligible for state or federal grants until those two plans are complete.
What plan was that?
2026 for our vulnerability assessment and the watershed management plan. Those two plans will actually set forth priorities for the city for resiliency and sustainability solutions for stormwater and flooding events, as well as identifying projects that are needed to improve what our watershed functions, how it functions.
Mayor, I'd also say yes, about the $814 million that the county's getting from the feds, very infant stages of that. We're really unaware of what the scopes will be, what the requirements will be for that grant. I think there's a time, just knowing I'm not sure how long it will be until we get some further information on that.
All right, why don't we open this up to the public? I know you all been here for a while and probably have a lot you want to say, so if I can, just remember, please come up, state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the commission.
My name is Gary Rosenberg, 93 Harborwood Circle. Been for 47 years. And I saw the creek when the creek was a creek, and everybody keeps on referring to it as a creek. It's the city's stormwater drainage system. It's an infrastructure. It is not our creek. No matter how you look at it, it is not our creek. At my property, we have a 25-foot easement from the center line of that waterway into my backyard. It's on the plot. So it stands there, it's documented. That's how I purchased my home. I walked the area before any homes were built on there. It was a quiet little creek, and you made it into a drainage ditch. All right, so that's number one as far as the property. So we have an infrastructure. Second important point is, I went through, of course, John's proposal, and noticed that it followed the Army Corps of Engineers recommendation. I think everyone lost sight of the Army Corps' recommendation was based on floodplain analysis. It was part of their program. They only took into consideration what was going to flood, not erosion. That was not part of their consideration. Even that, we keep on using that term. Right now, the Army Corps only put in about a little over 80% of the Harbor Woods Village portion for protection. That was their recommendation for flooding. We came to the city 6 years ago and said we're having subsurface erosion. Everything is being undermined. It's a safety issue. And we haven't changed our commentary, but it seems not to be received in the same way. So the other 20%, or a little less than 20%, is having this problem. This drainage system, the water table is going to rise in that particular area. It's automatic. Water's going to rise and fall according, to the amount of rain we have. And with the weather changing in today's world, it's pretty unpredictable. The 20%, or a little less than 20% that's not covered is going to be immensely impacted by this additional groundwater that's going to be available. We've seen it in other areas, like Rainbow Farms.
Gary, we got a lot of people that want to speak, and we got 3 minutes is up, so.
He's talking for us.
Well,
Up to you.
Let him go.
Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no.
All right, can you wrap it up in 1 minute?
1 minute, okay. So this aspect about this infrastructure, the city is the only, let's call it mechanism to look at the entire creek. Creek being stormwater drainage system as a whole. And my example, back when we had Hurricane Debbie come through, we had about 5.5 inches of rain that particular event, which flooded the Green Springs Drive and a lot of the Huntington communities, okay? 2 months later, we had Hurricane Milton come along, okay? It deposited 9 inches of rain, 9 inches, about 40% more than we had in Debbie, and we didn't have any flooding. Part of it is I have to commend the city taking action to look at downstream of the Huntington communities and saying, hey, we had a restriction. The Huntington people had no control. That goes along for everybody on that drainage system. No one has control. It has to be a city item that's covered. And we're all vulnerable to that. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Gary.
Good evening, I'm Leslie Grace. I live at 61 Harborwood Circle. I've been complaining about this, well, it's no longer the creek, as he said. It is now the stormwater runoff that is Safety Harbor's responsibility. The thing is I think you're kind of misguided, Mr. Steingel, by thinking that you can charge people's residents money to repair what is damage put on by, you know, the city, the county, through Safety Harbor, all the way to the creek. Well, I've been here for over 20 years fighting with the city. In this last 20 years, there has been 5 city engineers. Now, how do we ever get anything done when you have turnover like we've had? Our last city manager, he was here for 20 years. He knew what was going on. He wasn't really in agreement with me, but he did know the details. Now we're back to square one. We have just had 3 hurricanes back to back. I would love for any of you to come. I've challenged you before. Come to our area on Harborwood Circle, in Harborwoods Village, and you can see the damage that has been done. It is something that we as citizens cannot do anything for ourselves. If I were to put in a cement wall on my property, I would be able to save my property, but what do I do with my neighbors? What if somebody doesn't have $30,000 to save their part of the property? When, yes, it's private homeowners' property, but we never ask for that in our backyard. Like Mr. Rosenberg was saying, when I moved in there, it was this big a pipe. Now it's 16 feet wide by 6 feet high, and you can only imagine how much more water that can carry through somebody's backyard. So I would really like to see something moved along a little faster. Joe, I have documentation from you guys since 2007. We're looking for the funding. We're going to find funding. Bill Arakis is going to help us. We're going to have this money here. We're going to do this. If we find funding, we're going to help you. That has never, ever happened.
Well, hold on a second. It hasn't started since, I never made those promises in 2007.
No, I'm
I
not
started
saying
meeting with
2007 for you.
Right, but I started meeting with Gus Bilarakis probably 4 years ago, I would say. And a lot's happened because we did get the federal government to get the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers involved to do the comprehensive study, which does take a lot of time. But, right, and it did, and we got that done, and now we've got engineers putting together plans, so I mean, a lot. And this is a major, big, comprehensive problem, and I mean, we don't have a magic wand here, Nancy, I mean.
And I understand that, I do understand that. But, you know, the longer we put it off, the more money it's gonna cost.
We're not putting it off, we're moving forward.
But you haven't, really. I mean, where has been the funding? Where is Mr. Bilirakis when we needed the money?
Well, are you calling him? Are you reaching
I
out?
have tried to call,
Okay.
you know, I
This
use
is-
his
this
answering
is,
machine, basically.
Okay, but this is so we do have a new representative, Anna Paulina Luna. I mean, we're in her district now. I mean, we have a lot of stakeholders in this. Like I said earlier, we got the city's a stakeholder, the residents are stakeholders, the county, the state, the federal government, and we're trying to quarterback this whole thing between all these different agencies and try to come up with the money. And, you know, we're doing, I tell you, we're doing the best we can here to get this money, and we've made progress with getting the Army Corps of Engineers out here and getting engineering firms going, but I don't think any one of us ever promised this was gonna be a quick fix where we can.
I know it's
Yeah.
not gonna be a quick fix, believe me, I understand that completely. But no, I don't, I would challenge you on some of that, I really would. Because I think that, you know, like I said, the engineers have turned over. How can you get a secure plan?
That's
Yes,
kind of light,
now
we're gonna
you've
have
got
engineers, all right.
Just 30
All
people in our neighborhood.
All right.
They're taxpayers, Joe, come
No,
on,
I-
we need some help. And we can't wait 5 more years. People's houses have literally disappeared. And I
All right.
get this every time, my 3 minutes up, I know, you know, I have to sit back down. But the bottom line is that we cannot keep fooling around. I understand the pier's gone, you're looking for
Wait,
funding
wait, so
for
let me,
that.
all right, let me
I
push back, all right, let me
understand some
push
stuff.
back on you then.
Okay.
What's your, if you were sitting up here, what would you do?
What would I do?
Yeah.
Well, I would have said, you know what? I have tried for many years, and I'm still trying, but the problem is that I am not gonna be, I'm the mayor, and I'm not responsible for that. And so it doesn't move along. Nobody, I mean.
No, what
I
would you
could
do
put
though? Where are you
the
gonna get the money?
Well, I would.
Or would you
know
pay
what?
for the improvements for all the private property?
Absolutely.
You would, out of city money?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's good to
how
know.
much taxes some of these people have probably paid over 20 years? I mean, that's the thing is, you know, you're not helping us in the subdivisions. You know, I understand the city end of it.
And then where do we
you know,
draw the line? If somebody has a sinkhole, if a tree lands on someone's house, where do we draw the line where we
sinkhole is
take
a
care of
natural
somebody's
thing.
private
A
property?
sinkhole is a natural thing.
Okay.
Running
All right.
water like that in your backyard,
All
it's not.
right, let's give all right, we're gonna give other people a chance to
All right,
talk. Thank you.
This is Jerome, 85 Hartwood Circle. Couple of things here. I think the scale of what the creek really is being missed here. There's, the pictures of your maps are not doing it justice. On a normal level, that creek is probably no more than 6 to 12 inches of water height. We've got pictures from Hurricane Milton not too long ago. It was every bit of 10 to 12 feet high. The city, which would be called public city water, stormwater runoff, is then shed into what you're calling a private creek. I'm not sure how that's not an issue. Heaven forbid we were to stop your public's, we've got, next to our house, we've got a stormwater drain. That feeds right into our so-called private creek. We've got neighbors who are on hard corners. When you're talking about, you've got 8 to 10 feet of water rushing through, it's not a creek, it's damn near a river. You know, the option of a 50-50 split of homeowners having to pay for this, your stormwater that you're shedding off is now our problem. I've got a wife and a newborn. We bought our house when it was worth $250,000. We can't afford to fund a 50-50 with the city. You just approved, and again, it's pennies for Brunells or what have you, but a fire truck that was $1.2 million. And you're asking us how, you know, what do you want us to do? I think that's a bit of a problem. You've got 40 of us here. There's probably another couple hundred that are affected by this. It's, you know, born and raised here, it's tough to see. It's, you know, if it's private, then if we block it off, that's gonna be a problem for everybody. You'll come after us for something, so that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'm John Nakeza, 8 Arbor Woods Drive. One of the questions is, what's other alternatives besides putting concrete walls in and all the rest of this that's costing millions of dollars? Do you have other alternatives? Andy was the mayor. I talked to a person from Orlando that was working on clear water, corrugated tubes, 8 feet round. They lay them out from where our road is. I gave up 20 foot of my property, so the storm drainage system didn't have a 90-degree turn, it had a 45-degree turn. The city said, oh, we'll keep it clean now. Nobody's been down there. The corrugated tube was just for my property to my neighbor's properties. 2 of them passed me on the creek. It was $97,000. That's it. The city wasted $55,000 on putting gabion walls in that you can't even find anymore. I had 16 feet of water in my backyard. Nobody's did nothing about that. I mean, I don't understand what's taking so long. 18 years this has been going on. You know, we keep talking, we come in, now all of a sudden we get this email showing that the city only owns 6 feet on each side of the center of the storm drain system. You put it in, we didn't. We didn't have a say-so over it. You took a little creek out and put in this storm drain system that didn't work. It wasn't supported. We just worked, you know, and I'm not putting no money up. I pay taxes. The tree, 55-foot tree fell from my property line across the creek. It was on your property. Your city come out, cut a 6-foot hole in it, and said, that's all you're doing. I asked him, I said, it's your tree. Nope, that's your problem. It's on your property. I said, it's off my property line. It's not on my property. They said, nope, we're not doing nothing. My wife and I talked about it. We talked to some neighbors. And out of the goodness of my wife's heart, she says, all right, let's get it out. We're in hurricane season, and if we get a bad hurricane, it's gonna back up the creek. It ain't gonna hurt my property. It's gonna back up the creek all the way to McMullen Booth and flood all them people out. So we paid $3,500 to have it taken out, and I paid another $500 to have the area cleaned on your 6 feet of each side of the creek. I came up with the money. I'm retired. I live on Social Security. And I'm gonna take money out of my pocket to pay for your problem you created? Think about it tonight. Thank you, Laney.
Tom Burns with Huntington Trace, I'm at Winsong Court. A question I've been mulling around with the council here. Has anybody been in touch with the city of Clearwater about the flow of water coming off McMullen Booth and Enterprise Road? There's 50 acres of concrete up there, and from the ponds I see that are filled in quite a bit, and 2 properties that I don't see any retention for water. And I've been told that there's vaults at the corner, the southwest corner of the intersection, but I've been up on that property looking around, and somebody said there was vaults underneath these buildings. I don't see how any vault could be underneath the buildings. And if there is a vault underneath the building, has it ever been cleaned to hold any water? Because there's a huge area between those properties that is completely clogged up. It looks like there's a couple of weirs in there, but it's not stopping any water because it's full to the top of it with debris. So has anybody from the city contacted anybody from the city of Clearwater?
What I can tell you is we're in close contact with the Southwest Florida Water Management District. So they're in charge of the flow of water across municipal and county boundaries. So there are primaries, and they've actually been to a city meeting to give a presentation and answer questions and stuff like that. So yeah, there's ongoing continued discussions with Clearwater, but the people that are in charge of the flow of water across boundaries is the South.
Because going to what points other people have made, those culverts have been largely increased under McMullen Booth, which in an event, even afternoon thunderstorms this last couple of years, is sending a tremendous amount of water downhill. I feel like we're chasing the tail instead of going to the head of the problem. And the problem is that much water shedding off that big of a concrete area. If we don't stop that or slow that down, anything we do downstream isn't going to do anything. We can't, as Huntington Trace, we've been studying this for the last 4 months. Had people come in, done studies on all our sewer systems and our ponds. We're about to finalize the last of the dredging on our ponds and stuff. But we've come to the conclusion that if we don't put a culvert in the creek at the head of our property and build a wall up to Huntington Trace's walls, we'll never solve it. Because it's inundating the ponds in Huntington, which are overflowing into our ponds. And none of those ponds should be taking water from Mullet Creek. So you've got Enterprise Road that's draining into Huntington's. You've got the north end of Green Springs that drain into Huntington's, into the very pond that's overflowing and flooding our neighborhood. And I've talked to a couple of civil engineers that are friends of mine, and they don't understand how Huntington was ever permitted with the 2 small ponds that they have for retention. You know, there's a huge conservation area going up through their property. We have 10 ponds on our property. They have 2 small ponds. And the volume of water coming into those, there's no way it's going to catch it. So if we don't do something coordinated with the city of Clearwater, Swift Mud, Huntington's, anybody north of Huntington Trace, we're not going to solve our problem. Our ponds are dredged correctly.
Well, let me just jump, because you do, I mean, we have 3 minutes and we're over, but you do bring up some good points in acknowledging that this is not a Safety Harbor created problem. There's water from other jurisdictions, whether it be the county or, you know, other cities that are flowing into, you know, Safety Harbor, which we can't control the permitting processes in the county and city of Clearwater.
I think
and other.
you're going to say that, though. I think we can control it.
Well, through Swift Mud, but we don't control Swift Mud.
No, but the city of Safety Harbor is responsible for its watershed. The city of Clearwater should be responsible for its watershed, whether Swift Mud's involved or not. They have a big property up there that's completely.
No, but Swift Mud oversees the permitting for all these projects for and Renee can correct me, but I want to say they came around in the late 80s. So there were no permitting processes before then, at least through Swift Mud, and the permitting process has changed. But they're the government body that is in charge of the flow and permitting of water in this area. And the bottom line is we don't control Swift Mud. And so we're working with the parameters and the handcuffs that we have on us to do the best we can to find a solution for all this water flowing into our city from outside of the city. And we're trying to do the best way, navigate this the best we can.
Well, I understand that Swift Mud controls this.
Yep.
But city of Clearwater's got to be responsible for it. Whether it's Swift Mud that oversees the whole thing or not, but somebody should be up there asking about the vaults that are in that shopping center and about the ponds that are supposed to be holding water up there that aren't. They're not holding that kind of water anyway.
Yeah.
So has anybody with the city been in touch with this subdivision of Huntington? Because I've tried to call the president of Huntington and they won't talk to us.
We had a workshop here with all the Huntingtons several months ago.
This is a separate community. The
Huntingtons weren't here?
Enterprise.
The Huntington was in? I thought they were here. There were people from Huntington here. Yeah, there were. So yeah, we've had a workshop with all the people from the Huntingtons and Huntington. So yeah, we've been in contact with them all.
I've been told by the Huntington that they won't.
Okay. Let's just, all right, we gotta keep things moving, but thank you.
Well, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt him, but I'm Carol Crawford, 2412 Huntington Boulevard in Huntington.
Okay.
And I was about to come up and speak. Just a minor clarification, we do have 3 ponds, we don't just have 2 ponds. My point was going to start being, I think the focus on individual homeowners is wrong. This really, as it's been portrayed, I think more and more, is a broader issue. We have a drainage system within our development that's designed for the water to ultimately flow into the creek, but it doesn't always start in the creek. Some of the homes have a depression in their backyard, where the water from their neighbor flows into their yard, flows into the next neighbor, ultimately goes into the creek. So that huge amount of water collecting from homes ultimately spills into the creek. So to focus on the individuals who have to then ultimately manage the creek itself doesn't make any sense. It really is a broader way to look at how this now has become the drainage system. And our goal within Huntington is not to stop the flow of the water, because that we know is going to make things worse for the people on the other side of that cessation. So it's got to be a much broader look at the issue. And I just lost my other thought. And also, as Thomas was alluding, there's a lot more water coming into Huntington from north of Enterprise, coming down for some of that construction, and over on McMullen Booth, more of that water is coming over to our community, to then needs to be drained down through the creek. So the issue really can't be small and focused on individual homeowners. And also, the study that was being addressed earlier is really just identifying 3 communities in the area. It doesn't address all the Huntingtons and many of the other communities where that issue is significant. So I think the focus cannot be individual homeowners and who can afford a grant and who cannot. I think it's a much bigger issue. And where you find the money, I don't know. That's why you're there. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Jim Rapp, 2221 Winsong Court. Josh, you and I discussed special assessment district, like we had out in California, weed abatement district and so forth. As I recall, on one of the last meetings, you handed out some material where there's emails posted by the city saying this is our responsibility. Anybody recall that? It was in the material that you handed out. That was the city.
I don't think the email said it was we took responsibility. We acknowledged that we had been performing maintenance on some of the creeks voluntarily, and then we stopped doing the.
There was a specific statement saying it is our responsibility. If you reread it.
You're talking about something the former city manager Matt Spore said in an email out of context, where he was not taking responsibility for the maintenance of all the creeks in the city. I know what you're talking about. That's not what happened.
Well, the way we took it was, you don't have to do it, we're going to do it. But had we been put on notice that this was our responsibility, we could have been creating a sinking fund where small amounts of money put aside every year, we could have enough to address it. But here we are, and it's a large amount of money, and the homeowners don't have it. Where do you get the money? A bond or a bank loan? Something, and then you can make payments on it. We can make payments. We can, with the special assessment district, we can maintain that. But the big amount of money up front, you're better able to fund it, borrow for it, bond it, whatever it would take to get it done now. Just a thought.
So are you?
Hold on, Jim.
Are you suggesting like a creek district for purposes of additional taxation?
That's exactly what I'm suggesting, yes.
There would have to be an area-wide tax, not just people that border the creek or communities.
Oh, I agree.
It affects other stuff.
I'm not directly affected, but I'm sure as heck willing to pay. Because it affects my neighborhood. Anything that affects values in my neighborhood or the city affects me.
All right, well, that's an idea. All right, thank you.
Hello, I'm Dan Sweeney. I live at 1706 Huntington Court, and I've been really involved with the Homeowners Association and the city for many years. I moved here in 1990, and at that time, McMullen Booth Road was 2 lanes, a scenic corridor. So there has been tremendous development. In 2012, our subdivision had flooding from the creek, and I worked with Matt Spore and the other Public Works Director, and the City of Safety Harbor actually came out and dredged Mullet Creek from Huntington Wall to the bridge and south of the bridge. And the City of Safety Harbor paid for that. And we hadn't had any, I did that in 2015. And we didn't have any flooding for years. In 2013, I contacted Matt again. Renee came out, and I said, look at the shape of the creek. It's just debris everywhere. And really, nothing really happened since then. And then we had normal rains in 2013 that overflowed the banks and went out onto Green Springs Road. Because of what, I mean, we can dig our ponds, and our subdivision is going to do certain things to do that, but the amount of water that's flowing in there we could dig our ponds 100 feet deep, and it will fill up in minutes. I don't live on the creek, but my garage flooded, my house almost flooded. I'm on a cul-de-sac far away from the creek. So I echo the sentiment that it is just not people living on the creek that are impacted by this water flow issue. And to me, the city should really be representing us and taking some ownership. And I'm not saying you have to pay for everything, but to say that's Clearwater, that's Pinellas, that's Swift Mud. I mean, that's just really not taking responsibility.
That's not, okay,
for
hold on a
what's
second, hold on a second.
happening in our city.
Hold on, we're here as an agenda item, taking responsibility, we're acknowledging it, we're pointing out facts that, yeah, there is runoff from other jurisdictions, but that's what we've been doing, we're trying to quarterback and coordinate this whole thing and taking responsibility, that's exactly what we are doing.
So I think last meeting, Renee said the vaults that are under Walgreens and those shopping centers, they're there, but that the amount that hold water, because sometimes the rain stops and all of a sudden there's like tons more water coming down. So that, have they been inspected? Who's in charge of that? I mean, I did run a rather large company, and I do know that at times you have to take responsibility and ownership. That doesn't mean that I say you can solve every problem, but I just keep hearing, we're not responsible for that, we're not responsible for that, that's the city. I mean, just that new, you could call it a new subdivision on Enterprise. The amount of water that comes off that place that has the walls with those small retention ponds, those aren't even filling up. The water's coming right down the road, and I think that's part of the reason Huntington's wall got eroded. So I'm just asking you. So like, look at it, I don't live on the
So we
creek.
gotta give other people a chance to speak too, but thank you.
Eric Wagman, Huntington Trace, 2214 Winsong Court. I know, Ms. Johnston, earlier you mentioned public good, talk about, or, having public good and using money appropriately. I know the big conversation here is, where do we come up with the money? And that's unquestionably, if we had enough money, we could solve all these problems. My question is sort of, at some point, it becomes a public safety issue, which I know, Josh is very familiar with. I mean, our community in particular, when it got really heavy, if you were in Huntington Trace when the rains got bad, you couldn't escape. So, at what point does that factor into the whole equation? At some point, you have a casualty or two because somebody couldn't get out. Does that change the math? Could this commission and could the city find a way to come up with money if we had a few people pass away? I mean, I don't mean to put it that way, but that's something that, and I hope, God forbid, that ever happens.
What she's saying there was, to spend public money on it, we need a public.
That was just in regards to the grant. I'm just saying, we're gonna argue about money over and over, and we still have to do that. I just wonder if there would be a sense of urgency, or if people would get a little more aggressive or creative if we had a few things on the cover of the newspaper. I hope that's not the case. I hope we never get there. But I'm just, I have a friend in our neighborhood. He had a very minor issue. It was no big deal. He's fine. I'm not gonna overblow that. But if it was another person in our neighborhood who has some more serious conditions, and we have some elderly who have some serious medical issues. When that rain got real bad and people here, I mean, the corner of Green Springs and right coming into Huntington Trace, you weren't getting out of there. It was physically impossible to leave our community. We had a meeting later on that wasn't one of the major storms, you know, and I know some of the people in our neighborhood, we couldn't get back to our house that night. And I'm just saying, I mean, it hasn't happened, but I'd rather get this thing fixed before it does. So, anyway, that's just my point.
I'm Tom Wozniak, 3072 Hillside Lane, and I am currently the president of HOA at Hubbard Village. And just a couple of points to make to you. Number one, just to let you guys understand the volume of water that goes through this system. After Milton, you know, the aluminum walk bridge that goes over the creek at the southeast corner of North City Park. Okay, that bridge is totally underwater. So for that height and that width of water, that's just an amazing amount of river water coming through. So that's the amount of volume that we're talking about. This is really a serious issue, especially during hurricane or major storm issues. So, and there was a significant amount of sand on top of that bridge that indicated the water was at least that high, if not higher, to bring that sand up onto that bridge. The next thing is something I've been in this home for 20 years. Some 10 years ago, and this is a little bit of hearsay, the neighbors were cleaning up the creek, so-called, on their own, and were advised by the city that they could not do that, because if their area created a faster water flow in their neighborhood, it would create issues downstream. Now, that may or may not be true, but that's what I remember being told, that the city advised that they could not clean out the creek in their area, because that would create a difference in water flow and causing problems downstream. Now, that may be something to look at and see whether people can at least go down with a weed trimmer, clean out their own creek a little bit on their own, help, you know, the mess that's being created. But at one point in time, the city said that it could not do that.
Good evening. My name is Gail Gurdon. I reside at 99 Harborwood Circle. I've been there 15 years. I used to see people come from the city and clean our creek, our stormwater drain off. These last year, the hurricanes were so bad. The creek is about 12 feet deep, and it has a little stream run through it on little rains like today. The last 2 hurricanes we had, the water was almost in my back patio. I stood from me to you looking at the water coming over the edge of the creek bank. It became a raging river rapids. And it is a safety issue. I've had my house re-stuccoed. I have all new cracks. I've had my pool redone, new coping, all new cracks in it. Within the last 8 years, this is a problem that has to be addressed now. We can't keep pushing it under the rug and blaming everybody else. And it's Clearwater, it's Swift Mud, it's Safety Harbor. Let me tell you something. Swift Mud is South Florida Waste Management System. That means that's all of us. It might be a blanket thing, but it needs to take care of all of us. And you're our commission. Our homes are being destroyed because of this creek or this water runoff. And it's not, we don't have the money to pay for this. We just want something done that's gonna, I'm gonna tell you, my neighbor behind me on the other side of the creek are Nancy and Tom Lloyd. And they live on Egret Terrace. When the water comes down that hill from Hargat Lane and from Enterprise and North Bay Hills and all those neighborhoods there, it took their whole fence out, came into the creek, and it just burrowed out a big welt on my side of the creek to where I've lost another 6 feet of my yard. My house, the corner of his house is at the edge of the creek now, right there at it. My house, it's getting really close. And we really need something done with this. We need to have some action done. No more just talking and nothing's getting done. It's got to get done.
Thank you.
I'll keep my comments brief.
Thank you.
My name is David Gallagher. I reside at 8 Idlewild Drive. I'm president of the Baywoods Homeowners Association. Unlike Harbor Woods and Rainbow Farms, we probably have the least impact of Bishop Creek. However, I've been a resident for 30 years. And similar to what these folks have said, I've watched this creek erode and take a lot of folks, a lot of value from their property. So I think I just want to get on record to say Baywoods, although doesn't have the same impacts as Harbor Woods and Rainbow Farms, I think we definitely need a more comprehensive solution. I think we're playing a whack-a-mole game here with what can we do to put a Band-Aid on this? And I think if you've been listening to these folks, their property values are being affected negatively. And this creek and this area is capitalized in their values. So I really would encourage you folks to go back and see if there's a more comprehensive solution to this. Just want to get that on record.
Thank you.
Hello, Mike Dahmer, 1024 Wyndham, which is at the corner, Wyndham Way, which is at the corner of Green Springs, which runs north-south, and Marshall, which runs east-west. Let's see, anyone that has any memory at all knows I was originally opposed to that church access road. It turns out that they are fantastic neighbors. That road runs, it's on the yellow part of your map. It runs right through city-controlled, city-owned property, the wetlands. The culvert that goes underneath that road for a time was partially obstructed, and the city took care of that. But we had people observing that culvert, and during the heaviest rains before and after that handling of that culvert, still went above what that culvert would allow for water flow. That entire road, known as a spillover road, is higher than the wetlands that it goes through. It's an obstruction. Back in 2012 or 13, there was a rain event significant enough to turn Green Springs and Marshall into its own little waterway, deep enough for people to take their inner tubes and canoes through. And that hadn't happened since, until our recent events, where once again, and you guys have the pictures, Green Springs and Marshall once again turned into its own waterway deep enough for watercraft. What changed? Well, I humbly submit that that church access road, being higher than the wetlands, is obstructing some of the water. This is downriver from most of the Huntingtons on the west side. And the unprecedented event that took place this year was that homes in the Huntington Trails side of things, on the east side, we had multiple homes that flooded in that subdivision. Never happened before. So there's an obstruction that was put in between 2013 and present day that has contributed to flooding not only in Huntington Trace on the west side, but also Huntington Trails on the east side. The situation's gotten worse. It's on property that the city does have complete control over. So I just, and I'm aware of all of the obstructions to rapid progress that you guys have to cope with every single day. I humbly submit that you take another strong look at that area. Keep the road, but let the water flow. Thank you.
Ashley Sanchez, 2055 Brookside Drive, Rainbow Farms. For me, I don't know if there's a way that you guys can change like the nomenclature just to, instead of being creek and natural flow, to more of like a stormwater thing just to kind of increase accessibility to additional funds such as like FEMA or grants from the state of Florida, things like that. I don't know how difficult that is. The other thing, I know sharing the fault with the city of Clearwater, I think that's a great idea, although logistically probably a nightmare for everyone to point fingers at. I understand that, but they're right about the McMullen Booth part of it. And I don't know if there can be like box culverts or something that come off of McMullen Booth that just shoot down the roads, under the roads, where it's not going to affect our properties, but also divert some of the flow or something. And if there's a way that you can kind of set up a link or something for all of us to kind of unify with our stories, and then you could present it to city of, or the state of Florida, or bigger things that would have more of an impact because you have these individual stories of like the people of Safety Harbor and how it's affecting them. I don't know if there's like a link you could put on like the city's website or something where we can just kind of bond them all together, give you more power for negotiation. And that's it. And if there's a way to contact SwiftMud, if we could get that resource or something, just so we can also reach out, because I know they're in charge of it all, but if they're aware of all the individual cases, maybe they'll come to this area a little quicker, sort of thing. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Julia Stosky. I live at 12 Frederick Lane. That is one of the properties right next to McMullen, basically. After the last Hurricane Milton, we had extensive damage. I had 50 feet of fence, like 10 feet of my property eroded away. I think there needs to be a comprehensive approach, like everyone's saying. But some of these isolated locations, there were projects in the past, permanent projects, that should have been maintained that weren't. I don't know if some of this lack of maintenance actually helped cause some of this damage. This is something you guys really need to look at. I know you had the 2012, I guess, guidelines. To me, it doesn't take away the fact that there is easements and right-of-ways. It's not just all public land. But it does say in the event of natural disasters or emergency-related repairs, the city commission can direct the city manager to complete the necessary repairs on city property. Then stormwater easements or on the private property if there is potential or advanced public health or safety as a result to the damage to the creek or waterway. I think that's what we have. I think the creek has been damaged. It's more than a creek now. I think you guys can go, now's the time, if you want FEMA reimbursement. I don't know about you guys, but is this damage because of the hurricane? Did it escalate a little bit more because of the hurricane? I know my property it did. So I think you can capitalize on that now to get FEMA reimbursement. And if you wait till later, you might not be able to do that. That is all. None of you want to see pictures?
With the city clerk, again, like I said towards the beginning, the county did receive over $800 million of FEMA money that will be dispersed, and we're going to be applying for that and using all this as documentation to.
But that's in the future. I know FEMA reimbursement, it does. You have to act now. You have to document it. You have to do the repairs, do the necessary paperwork.
Well, that's at the individual property level. For the cities, we have a different process to go through.
I work with the state, so it's with the state as well. It's with the cities. And I think, I know on my property, on my survey, on the past projects that you did, it says drainage easement. I contact the city and say, hey, this drainage easement, it needs repair. That's 10 years ago. Nothing was done. I get a opinion memo saying that, it's on the private property. I don't think it's private property. I think it's up to you guys to make this uniform, I guess, plan for the whole community. That's it. Thank you.
Lower this. It's the problem of going after a big guy. My name is Jerry Higgins. I am from 2305 Oxford Court in the Huntingtons. And just wanted to provide some feedback on this because I think that's some of what you wanted us to do. But first of all, I want to thank you guys for actually taking some of this action. When we came and met with you in August, we talked about how we needed your help because of this situation. And you guys did all the research to do this. So we're really, I'm very grateful for you for taking the steps. And I know it's a journey, Mayor, and we're there with you, and we're just encouraging everyone to do that. To the extent that everybody here has been commenting on how this is no longer about little creeks, and this is about a drainage system. I want to throw my voice behind that too, because I see that. I think you see that. The evidence that we've all shown the council about the volume of water that's just running through our neighborhoods just demonstrates that with the growth of our community and the growth of the communities around us, that this is now a drainage system that just flows through our town, right? And our town, we need to take care of our town, right? And as discussed earlier, if there's techniques or methods that you can employ that will allow us to help fund this as part of some type of district or something, I think most of us would be very happy to do that. Because really, we all want this to be successful, and we all want our properties and our neighborhoods to be safe and to maintain their value. So I would say option 2, to the extent that that is a true acknowledgement of it being a drainage system, would seem like the right thing to do with all the proper engineering. But perhaps a hybrid is that, do we look at those areas where we are seeing current pain points, like some of what some of the residents are pointing out now, as possibly an option 1 on there, so that we can, kind of do things along the way. That's my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Maya Burke. I'm the Assistant Director of the Tampa Bay Estuary Program. Our address is 263 13th Avenue South, St. Petersburg, Florida. I just want to commend all of the community members for coming out today and talking on this really important issue. Tidal creeks and the multiple kinds of functions and values that they provide are critical to protect us and make us more resilient as a community, but they also provide important contributions to water quality downstream in Tampa Bay. They serve as juvenile fishery habitat, and they are just really beautiful places if you're lucky enough to live on one of these things. And so I am hearing all of the important feedback that's being offered here, and I guess my suggestion to you is it's yes and. These creeks are creeks, they have natural functions, but they are also providing stormwater benefits. The Tampa Bay Estuary Program has made these priority habitats for decades, and we are here today to make sure that the community is aware of support that we would also like to offer to the City of Safety Harbor as well as to individual residents. We have existing grant programs that could be available to neighborhood associations or individuals for those that are ready to act now through the Tampa Bay Environmental Restoration Fund. We also have a large grant through the Restore Act where we're doing $1.5 million in planning and design, and then another $8.5 million on implementation. And we're specifically looking at projects that address water quality and flood control in the old Tampa Bay watershed. So these upstream kinds of projects that have potential impacts on the downstream flooding is something that's of particular interest to this process. So as we kick that off, I want to encourage the community to participate in those sorts of things. And then I just want to share my perspective. I don't live in the city of Safety Harbor. I live in St. Petersburg, but I live on one of these creeks too. And I can confirm that all of these experiences sound very familiar. They're things that I have experienced as well. These challenges of multiple patchworks of ownership, city easements, personal responsibility, all of these things kind of come together. And there are different techniques beyond just putting in, basically seawalls inside or concrete gabion baskets, these kinds of like really great infrastructure techniques. When I experienced some of these issues on my property, we installed GeoWeb textiles, plants, and lime rock boulders. We've been able to restore a lot of the natural creek bank. But these systems will tend to meander. They will make their cells wider. The water will find a way. And so it's important to learn from many of the mistakes that we've made in the past when we have concretized and straightened out these natural creek systems, turn them into ditches.
and instead do better and employ techniques like natural channel design. There's a number of projects throughout the region that are employing these kinds of techniques that protect property, protect people from flooding, and are better for the environment as well. So I'd encourage and welcome any of you who are interested in a tour or more information about these to please contact me, and I'd be happy to speak with any of you.
Do you have a business card you can leave with the city
do.
clerk?
I'll
Okay.
grab it from my
Thank
bag.
you very much. Sounds like we got somebody. All right, anyone else? All right, so we're going to close the public portion of the meeting now, and we're going to keep it closed. So if anyone else wants to speak now would be a good time, or else we're going to discuss up here now. Okay, so we're closing that section back up to us. So you get the...
Sorry, I don't understand.
All right, Josh, you clear on what to do? No. Yeah, go for it.
I know our former discussion that we had talking about grants and putting on individual fixes, I don't think that's going to work. I think I agree with what the public sentiment is, that it's got to be a comprehensive approach to the whole area. It's something that we have to go ahead and, based on the studies that we got, is employ whatever, the 25 different measures that can be taken, and actually get those measures and specifically implement them in different areas according to the recommendation of the engineers. Now, how much is this going to cost? Right? Maybe we won't be able to do everything. Obviously, the acquisition of land is a possibility to try to create some more of a buffer zone as this water's coming down. We're going to have to look at the most economical, the best financial thing for everybody on this thing. But I don't want to get into a situation where we're doing a Band-Aid approach and this thing is going to keep lingering on for another 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Because it seems like in the past, I think there's been good intentions, right? But I don't think that a comprehensive approach has been placed. I think we put into place different areas according to what everybody's stating there. But I think there needs to be a plan of action for this whole area. This special tax district that we talked about, I mean, they're right. They're 100% right. It's not just if you live on the creek or a pond. You're affected if you live blocks away. We're all affected by it. We have to take that into consideration. And I think that them as a community, they're part of Safety Harbor. And perhaps maybe not everybody in the city of Safety Harbor is going to be affected by Mullet Creek or Bishop Creek or anything like that. But there's a lot more people, and I think that this is where the community comes in, and we have to do something. It may not be 100% of what they feel. And I also, one thing that I do disagree is making cement walls around this creek all the way down. I totally disagree with that, because I don't think anybody's going to be happy with that. Especially here in Safety Harbor. I know you won't, right? Putting cement walls down, I've been in that position growing up, and it's an ugly thing. So we have to try and balance, the environment, with what's the most practical thing to protect the property values. But we have to look at a comprehensive approach. We cannot let individual owners start taking ownership of doing things on their property and impacting somebody else's property. The guy with the most money is going to win. Right? So that's my position. Now, how we, the financing stuff, yeah. So, yeah, there's a special district, bonds,
Let me say
reserves,
something, just to put some rough numbers on the special.
And maybe we get lucky
special
with
district.
the county money.
Yeah, so special district, you got I think there's 40 people here. Someone said the people that are affected by it are probably maybe 140. Let's say you have a special district of 500 people. We have an unfunded amount of $5 million. That's $10,000 per household. Double it, $5,000 a household. That's still, I mean, I don't know how broad you want to cast the net for a special.
Well, I think it depends how many years you spread it over, and depends how much money that the city kicks in.
Yeah.
Because it's not 100% on their part.
Yeah.
We have to look at not just one way of financing it. There's various ways we could do it. We could look at, bonds,
Yeah.
loans, and go that way. And of course, if we're looking at the whole program, it doesn't mean that we have to do everything. We want to do the most economical, and I don't know, maybe the only way to do it is to do 100% of it. But that's where those gentlemen come in.
Closed it.
I'll echo some of what Commissioner Diaz is saying here. I appreciate the suggestion of the grant program because, we've been seeing emails and communications that people were taking action privately. And we thought, well, if this could be something that catches on and we ponied up some of that money to help it along, we might get traction faster than the other roads that we're going down. So I appreciate that as an option, but I think based on the feedback we've heard tonight, it's one that we'll just have to scrap for now. And know that we need more of the comprehensive plan that's gonna cost a whole lot of money. We're gonna have to get it from a few different places. I also appreciate the sentiments out there that a special tax district would be palatable to you. And I think that's something that might have to cover a piece of this, but I'm optimistic that there's some money coming down the pike that we might be able to use for it, and we might also need to commit to taking on some debt and paying it out over a few years to get what needs to be done and get our foundation back on track for the future. So that's where I stand on it too.
Mr. Mayor, I'm leaning the way the two gentlemen are leaning. However, I want to acknowledge what City Manager Stefanczyk said. If we go the broader vision, we can't just think of paying for that broader vision as one slice in time, because we have to talk about the upkeep of what we do for the future. So we have to factor all that. And I love what Ms. Mia said about the estuary people helping us, because I'm thinking about the concrete that was to happen at the pier area, and we ended up getting a natural sea. We didn't get a wall, but we got that.
Shoreline.
The
Yeah.
shoreline.
Yeah.
Andy Zadro had this idea, and the commission went for it. So I love that creativity, but I also want to acknowledge the business side, that we may have to give up something that we want, that we desire to get this. But I have been listening to this for a long time, to Ms. Grace. I've met with Mr. Rosenberg. I have had this empathy for the people for a long time, but it is just something where I felt that we've done something, and then the science that we used at the time backfired on us. I remember when the Gabion Wall idea just sounded wonderful and just so tight and such a solution, but it couldn't keep up with the times. That science didn't keep up with what's happening to you now. So what I also want to be cognizant of is that we want the science that we use now to be resilient science. I don't want to hear this. I might not be alive, but in 20, 30 years, I'd want to hear, oh, you did this, and now you messed us up worse. So I really hope that we study this very, very intensely. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I 100%, one of the things we need to do is try to keep maintenance costs as low as possible. I mean, we're gonna have to project out and see what's gonna be something that's gonna be high maintenance or not. And that's maybe through the acquisition of or buyouts of pieces of land and make it into a buffer zone instead of constantly be pouring money or getting back into the same situation in 10 years or 15 years.
So I would say this, from 2005 to 2012, I would while I was the mayor, would go out and try to target real problem areas in Safety Harbor with creek erosion. And to say nothing was done during that time, there were a lot of creeks in private areas that were actually addressed by the city. I think what happened was the expense of moving forward and continuing to address these issues, the expense was getting higher and higher and higher. So in 2012, the commission obviously enacted this policy. If the city is going to go forward and begin to address these issues, I do agree it should be addressed comprehensively. It shouldn't, to rely on flooding alone without taking into consideration the erosion issues. I mean, residents are here not because of necessarily flooding. They're here because the creek's undermining their backyard, and their backyards are eroding, their houses are cracking, and their pools are disappearing. I mean, there's a real problem, and I acknowledge I've seen it. It's just a very expensive, fix. And the question is, how do we get there? And do we create a special district for taxing? And do we float a bond in order to pay for the creek and slowly pay it back through a special taxing district so that we can begin to fix it? So a special taxing district, you're not going to tax people $10,000 at once, but they would pay more into taxes in addition to the regular property taxes. And I don't mean thousands more. It's more like 100, 200. And you add this up and you begin to pay the bond down over years. This past summer was a summer unlike any other summer. We had, I think, more rain in August than we had the summer before the whole summer. So a lot of course, when you have a hurricane with a lot of rain and you have rain events, you're going to have, it's just going to get, I guess some people say it's going to get worse. Some people say, no, it's just a one-time event. Who knows? But when you have these events, you're going to expect flooding. So really, I don't think the issue is necessarily flooding. The issue is undermining and people losing their backyards. And I think that, again, as far as unsightly and what you put in, there's river wrap, there are all sorts of techniques that are utilized. I'm sure things have changed going forward, and I'm going back to 2006, 2007, when we started addressing different areas throughout the city of Safety Harbor, North Bay Hills, and different areas. So I think we ought to look at the possibility of bonding it, a comprehensive plan, and a special taxing district in order to alleviate the issue. Because bottom line is the city doesn't have enough money to cover the entirety of the creek system throughout the city of Safety Harbor. There's just no way. We're talking $10, $20 million, if not more, and it's cost prohibitive for us just to, take a go at it, because you can't just fix one person's backyard and not the next person's backyard. It's flowing water, so you got to make sure whatever fix you make doesn't cause erosion down creek, and again erode someone's backyard down creek. So it's not just, that's why it's a comprehensive plan. It's not just addressing, one yard and not the other. But I honestly, I've been a proponent for, helping residents losing their houses and their yards to these creeks for years, and it's just the cost of living today is so exorbitant. It's just cost prohibitive for the city to just take it on its own. We can look to the state, we can look at the federal government, we can look around for additional funds, but I don't think it's so easy getting those additional funds. So I think the way to go is do a study and figure out if we floated a bond and we had a special district, and a special district would be affected or unaffected homes, everybody who resides in a home along a creek or any business along a creek would end up having this additional tax into a special district to raise funds to be able to pay the bond. Again, and it's not something that we're looking for $10,000 a year. It's long-term to pay this off. But again, we fix it, and 10 years down the road, we're going to have additional issues. It's just, we have rain events, and the rain events, no matter what we put in there, no matter how good the gabion wall or whatever it is we utilize to fix it, a significant rain event could undermine, and you can't just say, well, we'll fix it once and it's done and we're good. It just doesn't work that way. Mother Nature tends to do things that are out of our control. And so, we try and do our best to address the community issues. And again, that rain event that took place on Green Springs, I was driving home from Publix, and I captured it on my video and sent it over to City Manager Stefancic to let him know. I thought maybe there was a pipe that ruptured or something, and it was actually the water flowing. And we did some additional drainage work by the church, and it seems to have alleviated a lot of that flooding. I haven't seen flooding, despite all the rains, like that in some time. So, could be an easy fix that could alleviate this flow and reduce flooding and undermining. So again, I'd be for it, but I think we just need to take a step and begin to study it and figure out how we're going to float a bond and pay for it and have a special district. So I would imagine if someone's living in one of these homes along the creek and their home is about to split in half, or they're having issues and their backyard's disappearing, I would imagine they wouldn't mind paying an extra $100, $200 every tax period towards this special district. So I think we just need to study the numbers and figure out, is it possible?
Well, let me just first say this. I want to thank all of you for coming out. I know you're obviously very frustrated with this situation. Nancy said, I also have a lot of empathy for what you're all going through. If my house were on a creek and my backyard was falling into the creek and I had cracks in my house and my pool was, I had stucco issues and everything else, I would be very upset too, and I would be looking for answers. So I just want to convey that to you all and, let you know we're doing the best we can. I agree with everyone up here that we do need a comprehensive plan based on the feedback I am hearing from all of you, plus just my own thoughts. I don't think the individual grants is going to be an effective option, probably more like a whack-a-mole option where you just whack it here and then the problem just gets pushed somewhere else. The big question is where do we get the money? I think this is it's been pointed out, this is a comprehensive problem. I think we need comprehensive money. I think we need a public pressure campaign on our state legislators. I think we need to put pressure on the governor. I think we need to put pressure on our U.S. representative. Hold on a second, hold on. I'm getting there. We are doing it, but hold on a second, hold on. Let me finish here. If you don't want me to finish, I don't have to finish, but we will do it, and we have been doing it, but I can tell you from experience, it is a lot more effective when you all are doing it also. And you're putting that pressure on them because they hear from elected officials all the time asking for money, but when it's their constituents, and they're elected officials too, and they're hearing from their constituents saying, we need help with this problem, that's very effective also. So we're asking you to be partners in that too.
How does that happen?
So we have a state legislator, we have a state senator, we have a governor, we have a U.S. House of Representatives. They all have websites, all the information is public, and I think, plus we have county commissioners. I think we need to, and we could probably coordinate something with the city to do a comprehensive public pressure campaign to try to get money. I don't know what's going to happen with that $814 million the county got. I don't want to rely on it, but think we need to do everything we can to get our hands on as much of that money as possible, because that's what that is. It's it's storm event relief money, and we had 3 major storms last hurricane season, and as it's been pointed out, the amount of waterfall this last year was a multiple of waterfall in previous years, and it seems to only be going up going forward. So, I mean, I am open to the special taxing district. I feel like if once we start floating bonds, we're borrowing money, we're paying interest, and we're spreading the money, we're getting ourselves into this recurring, expense situation where we already run a very tight budget. How are we going to repay the bond? Where are we going to get the money for the additional interest? And the answer is, well, you just raise everyone else's taxes in the city. So, and so that's effectively making the entire city pay for it. It's an option. I'd rather get other people's money than our own residents' money, to be honest with you. And I mean, well, maybe, but I mean, raising taxes also is
Are there really residents that have not been affected by this flooding this year?
Yes.
Are there really any
Yeah.
residents?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I can't do the back and forth, but the quick answer is yes. There are some, but, hold on, if you're all asking for a tax increase, we can take the, okay. Well, maybe that's what we do then, and that may be part of it then. We can certainly factor that in, but again, I think we've got.
We can't do this back and forth, because then we're gonna have to allow.
All right, we're done with the back and forth. I think you've got enough feedback from us.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody's feedback, staff's work, the city commissioners, mayor, vice mayor's feedback, legal, as well as everybody in the audience. Appreciate all your continued feedback, emails, and conversation. I'll take this back, to staff. We'll start to work on a comprehensive plan to report back to the city commission. That would include the Kimley Horn proposal. I think it will include a budget for revenue side and expense size, capital, personnel costs, operational costs, and then my goal is for that to enter through the budget process and for fiscal year 26 to bring back some plans over the next couple months of what we'll do in fiscal year 26 for options.
Yeah, all right.
So who's going to be the focal point in your staff?
Right now, engineering.
Okay.
And I'd have to work with her to evaluate workload and all those items. So, but I'll report that back to you in a comprehensive plan.
Yeah, there'll be a legal component in the budget and everything, because just to analyze the access and easements and everything that we'll need, just so everyone's prepared. And then that way we can assign an attorney. And then if we are exploring financing options as well, that can be something that can be looked at.
All right. Sir. On the city's website, we've got those news items I noticed that kind of give updates like on the pier and storm. Can we put information on there about who our representatives are? The state, the county, and the federal?
Absolutely.
Who we can reach out to so the residents are aware of that?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, everyone, thank you very much. I'm sorry. No, we can't do that. I'm sorry, but noted. Noted you were going to say something nice, but we're going to, so why don't we all take a 5-minute break, give you guys time to, file out, and then we can reconvene in 5 minutes.
Hey, how are you?
Nice
to meet you. Yes, sir.
I was going to talk, but we've probably gone way past 3 minutes.
It's all right, no problem.
I don't want to know these other good folks.
I don't know.
They can hear our bags rattling back there. We've all been hungry tonight. I'm hearing our bags rattling.
Y'all asked me a lot harder questions when I bought a fire truck, by the way.
Be prepared to do,
You're ready to go, huh?
you should have left a few things off on.
You took all my notes.
Walk-ins on the bike.
Oh,
Yes, electric bike.
Interesting. 4 people. Could have been waiting.
All right, we're going to go ahead and call the meeting back to order. We're now on new business item number 3. I'll turn over to Carol.
Good evening, Carol Strickland, Community Development Director. This is a waiver request to the Land Development Code, Section 3603H and 36036C, to allow a fence to be set back 0 feet from the property line in lieu of the required 2 feet, and also to allow the fence height to exceed 6 feet by 4.5 inches. I do have a presentation. Thank you. The request is for 305 Main Street. The requester is the Tides, which is a retail and restaurant in that location. It's located at the corner of 3rd Avenue North and Main Street. It is in the Main Street Marketplace District within the city's Community Redevelopment District. You can see an aerial there. It's a multi-tenant building with a driveway entrance off of 3rd Avenue North. And the area in question that we'll be discussing is here where the fence was installed on 3rd Avenue North. The applicant created an outdoor 900 square foot patio area by obtaining permits. One of those permits was for a fence to be located along 3rd Avenue North. This is the permit application that was submitted showing the fence along 3rd Avenue as well as a small utility enclosure in this area. And this is the utility enclosure, and I show that picture because it does show some of the obstructions which make the 2-foot setback for the fence impractical in that location. This is a view looking north along 3rd Avenue, showing the fence right along the property line at the edge of the sidewalk. And again, looking south. And here is a view of the outdoor planting area. So the requirements are that the fence not exceed 6 feet in height and it be set back 2 feet. The applicant's contractor did come in for permits. Those requirements were notated on the permit, but when the finished fence was inspected, it was discovered by the inspector that the fence had not achieved that setback, and that when field measurements were taken, that it was about 4.5 inches over that 6-foot requirement. So the applicant is requesting a waiver to the Land Development Code to reduce that fence setback from the edge of the sidewalk from 2 feet to 0 feet, and to allow the fence height to exceed 6 feet by 4.5 inches. It should be noted that due to the grade change, the 4.5 inches is the exterior elevation on the sidewalk side. It's a little higher elevation on the inside, so it's only about 2 inches on the inside. These are the criteria for the waiver. The applicant's narrative does identify the justification for the waiver, and they are requesting that the waiver be satisfied based upon number 3, deprivation of reasonable use. In order to obtain a waiver, the City Commission must find that it meets one or more of these conditions for waiver. And so the City Commission may approve with modifications, or deny the waiver request. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have a question. There's been some chatter, email chatter or online, I can't remember where I saw it, to the effect that does this fence placement affect ADA specifications for that stretch of sidewalk?
Let me go back to the picture. I believe the concern was, you can see here that there's a storm inlet, a drainage inlet there. I'll go to the next picture. The width of the fence here, the width of the sidewalk from the fence to the curb is 7.5 feet.
Okay.
The inlet cuts in a little bit to that, but it's, the width of the sidewalk there is over 5.5 feet, so it does meet ADA requirements.
Thank you.
So if I understood you right, the applicant was permitted, and on the permit, you had the, I guess, the setback noted as well as the height of the fence?
Yeah, the permit included the fact that the fence would be 6 feet tall, but when it was constructed, it was discovered to be a little bit taller. The permit plan itself did not indicate the 6-foot setback. That was a note by the Public Works reviewer saying, advising the contractor that it needed to have that 2-foot setback.
Okay, it just seems like they built it and now they're asking for a waiver.
And I'll let the applicant is here, and they're available to answer questions.
Okay.
And I have one more question. Going forward, whatever we decide on this, is there a way to make that notation, if there's an added notation, really green, a way that we will never hear again that somebody missed it? It will pop.
Well, one way that it could have been done would be to ask the applicant to submit a revised plan showing the setback.
Like it, or sign something?
Or, we'll certainly work on making sure that these requirements don't get missed.
No criticism to you, because you shouldn't have to be the last eye on it, but here we are.
Understood.
Thank you.
Would the applicant like to speak?
Other questions that you would like us to answer?
Does anyone have any questions for the applicant?
We'll pop up really quickly.
So it's a little more.
After you.
So there were several steps. We started this process with Marcy and Matt really when we took over the space. It was something that we always wanted to do, was to turn that outdoor space into a nice dining area for kids and dogs and that kind of thing. So we talked with the landlord who had the parking lot repaved, which was in disrepair. And part of the reason that he did that was because we asked him about putting in AstroTurf. So he said, well, I'm not going to do this in stages, so why don't we just do this all together? I'll take care of the AstroTurf and the parking lot, and then you can get the fence permitted and do whatever else you need to do to finish it off. So he permitted the repaving of the parking lot and the AstroTurf. The AstroTurf was permitted all the way to where the post office fence. This isn't a new fence. This is replacing an exact, we actually used the same post holes for this fence that were there previously. The AstroTurf was pushed all the way out to the edge where it was permitted, approved, and that permit has been closed out. And so there was one sentence in the 17-page document of permits that we got for the fence, and we just missed the one sentence that said it needed to be set back 2 feet.
We appreciate your comments on that,
Absolutely.
Commissioner Bisford, that, it was teeny tiny. It was a genuine, honest mistake. We certainly weren't
We've
trying
done
to.
everything to the letter of the law since we've come into the space, and we've only wanted to make a nice space for our guests and for Safety Harbor. There truly isn't any other space like this in the harbor currently. There's a couple of issues with bringing it in 2 feet. The first one is that we have underground power that runs from that picture, that one, all the way under the parking lot. So to move it 2 feet in would be tremendous expense to find out where those lines are and then to move the fence itself. Practically, it would be very difficult to move it at this point.
Would be very expensive. The other issue that it does bring up is that if we are to move the fence back 2 feet, you now have an elevation change on that sidewalk.
And a significant trip hazard.
A significant trip hazard because the excavation and the AstroTurf was brought all the way to the edge of the sidewalk. So now we've created an even bigger.
So we have a 45-foot long, 2-foot wide trip hazard. there would be a different elevation than, because if we had to take that fence out, there's going to be a 3 to 6 inch lift where the AstroTurf is.
I'd like to clarify too, that I'm not staring at you about the oversight. You probably did not put up this fence. And you, as I, have often had to rely on a contractor.
Certainly.
And so that doesn't excuse you that you relied on your contractor, but you did. And so I'm thinking, how can we help the contractor
Certainly.
to
And I
not make
appreciate
such a mistake?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
It's a big, big mistake.
It is.
Absolutely. My name is John Walker.
And I'm Mary Kate Walker, and we're the owners of the Tide Seafood Market and Provisions.
It's really a lovely space.
Well, thank you very much. Anyone from the audience wish to be heard on this?
Marty Schumacher, 206 3rd Avenue North. We probably live about 200 feet away. I can tell you that we greatly appreciate what they have done. The plastic, crappy, white, old vinyl, sorry, I shouldn't have said that, vinyl fence that was there, and the trashy parking lot that was full of potholes. So between them and the landlord finally fixing this up, we love it. I would agree with them. The asphalt, if you take that fence away, as far as I know, there's no requirement that they have to landscape that space, they have to do anything. It doesn't make sense to me. The building right there is on the property line. It just continues the line of that. So I don't think we should be applauding people that are making things better, spending money to make things nicer than they were to begin with. So, thanks.
Yeah. Anyone else? Anyone wish to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the waiver request to reduce the required fence setback and the allowance for the fence height to exceed 6 feet.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes 5-0. All right, next up, we have another waiver request.
Good evening, Carol Strickland, Community Development Director. This is a waiver request to Code Section 98.05D to reduce a required front yard setback for a building addition from 25 feet to 14.8 feet in order to align the front facade of the building with the existing building, with the addition. This is a site that you did approve the site plan for in December. It's located on 10th Avenue South, and it is in the Service Corridor 2, SC2 district in the community redevelopment area. You can see the existing building, which is 14.8 feet from 10th Avenue South, and the area where the building addition is requested. So the site plan approval did show the building being built in line with the addition, the addition being built in line with the existing building at 14.8 feet. The area that's affected is about 180 square feet. If they were to set the addition back, they lose 180 square feet of their 2,413 square foot building addition. This setback discrepancy was discovered when they came in for construction site plan review, that it was not picked up during the site plan review, that a waiver would be required in order to build in line with the existing building. And you can see the existing building. Here's the right-of-way of 10th Avenue. The addition will be in this area. You can see the required setback standards. We're talking about the minimum front yard setback in SC2, and they're requesting to build their addition in line with the existing building at 14.8-foot setback. Again, these are the waiver criteria. You do need to find that it meets at least one of the waiver criteria. The applicant has identified that they meet criteria 1, 3, and 4. And the City Commission can approve with modifications, or deny the waiver request, and the applicant and their representative are here to answer any questions.
All right, any questions for Carol?
So that whole front is all concrete, right?
Yes.
It's all concrete anyway, so.
And during the, as part of the site plan review, they did identify that they would be taking up some of the impervious area and creating a little more pervious and planting area. But what the addition is going on area that's already paved.
Yeah, so there's, the setback thing has already been, the purpose of a setback has already been destroyed. It's gone.
There's no green space there?
No green space, yeah.
All right, any more questions? Anyone from the audience wish to be heard? We have a motion?
I'll move approval of the waiver request.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. All right, so items 5 and 6 are sidewalk waiver requests for 2 properties right next to each other. You want to kind of give us the overview on both of those at once, since they're...
Yes, if I may, I'll present them both together. These are 2 adjacent lots, 2376 and 2380 Ridgell. Essentially, there was a single-family house on the property that was sitting on those lots. The applicant is proposing to demolish that and to develop 2 lots, or 2 new single-family homes. You can see in this picture that home that'll be demolished and kind of the condition of Ridgell Avenue, looking north and south. Essentially, it is a county roadway, and there are no sidewalks on that roadway. Only a portion of it is paved, and then, but the county's portion is just a stabilized surface. Just to note, there's not any sidewalks in that area, and the county does not have any plans in their 5-year CIP to make improvements to put sidewalks in. So here's the criteria for the sidewalk waiver. And the number 2, the existing right-of-way is unimproved, and the construction of the street is not included in the responsible jurisdiction's 5-year capital improvements plan, which is Pinellas County. And the City Commission may approve or deny the request. If the City Commission wishes to approve it, the applicant would pay a sidewalk fee in lieu payment of $2,400. And we're requesting that the Commission take separate actions for 2376 and 2380 Ridgell. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I have a question. The property back there, other than these 2 lots, most of it's still unincorporated or still county?
It's kind of a mixture. These properties were annexed last year in order to, obtain certain services. There is not sewer back there, so they will be on a septic tank.
All right. And I take it there's no sidewalk within this community, correct?
No, there's not.
And that's a dirt road?
It's a stabilized surface.
Okay, dirt, okay.
It ain't asphalt. It's not asphalt.
Yeah, it's dirt.
Anyone from the audience wish to be heard on this?
I live at Gary Granada. Gary Granada, 2370 Ridgell. I live next door to this property. First of all, I don't know, is there anyone here? I was hoping there would be, so I could find out who owns that property. Right now, the reason I'm here, first of all, is I can speak for all of us. We don't want a sidewalk. We're perfectly happy. As you saw, it's not Beverly Hills, but it's a nice area. We like it the way it is. We've lived with it the way it is. A few years ago, the city, there was a dispute about who was responsible. The city actually paved up to those properties. And I think I was actually here in Ramsey County. Anyhow, we're on the unincorporated side. What I would ask is, maybe I need to get it from you. There is, your picture doesn't show, there's a big trash heap right in front of the fence. It's been there for like about a year. They've literally abandoned the property. And I call it the Munster property. That's, it's overgrown, the trees are down. But it's to the left of, I've got it here. I don't know, you can't see it. But it's just a bunch of trash. There's carpet, ever since the residents left, it's all been out there. It's not hurricane related. I'm trying to get someone to come out and just get rid of that stuff. And I don't know who to talk to. I thought I put a call into code enforcement here, but I don't want to be anything unfair or anything that I didn't hear back. So is there someone that can help just come out, look, and make somebody, just get rid of the trash in front of
So
the...
send me an email, I'll send you a contact name.
Okay.
I would imagine that once the builder comes in.
Well, it's the builder that owns it.
Well, I don't know who it is, and I don't know what stage they're at permitting. I mean, well, obviously it's a part, but whether they leave it, nobody's come by. It's just unfair to the neighborhood, I know it's not pretty, but we like it, and that makes it even worse. And once you know when junk starts getting pushed down, other people see it and they add to it. Because, hey, that's a great place to dump. I've been in public service.
Send me an email and I'll send you a contact number.
Yeah.
Just send me an email, it's on the website.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a name and you can contact it. I'm sure they'll have it addressed really soon.
Okay. That's all I'm asking for, So very much, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
I didn't expect to be here this long, but it was very enjoyable. I learned a lot today. I'm going to start attending more of these meetings.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, do we have a motion to approve the waiver for 2376 Rogel?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. How about a motion to approve the waiver for 2380 Rogel?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Next up, we have a downtown partnership grant program item.
Good evening, Carol Strickland, Community Development Director. I was before you in December to propose the idea of modifying our spring 2025 downtown partnership grant application to focus on grants to improve business resiliency. And based upon the Commission's direction, I'm bringing that proposal back to you tonight for approval. We will be opening up the downtown partnership grant program around February 1st and accept applications for 60 days. So this is the remaining funding available for fiscal 24-25. We have approximately $45,000 remaining. In your packet, there's the existing application form, which outlines the current grant categories. What we did in our proposal was to narrow down those categories and focus them on categories that would improve resiliency. So those categories are business facade grant in ways that would improve sidings, windows, doors, in order to make the building stronger, soffit gutter installation, and so on. There would be a 50% grant, and it would not exceed $7,500. New signage grant, that is an existing category as well, reimbursing up to 50% of the cost of new signage or 75% of the cost of replacing non-conforming or storm damage signage, not to exceed $2,500. Landscape grant, again, 50% reimbursement for landscape and hardscape improvements that would improve water runoff and drainage. We did hear some accounts of water coming into businesses and having to replace carpeting and so on. So looking, maybe at some improvements that would direct water away from those vulnerable entrances. And then finally, the interior renovation for non-residential building, which would be floodproofing measures. We talked a lot about generators last time. We cannot pay for non-capital equipment with this funding. So if a generator is permanently installed, we would be able to pay for that. We're recommending a maximum of $5,000. Or if a portable generator is desired, we would pay for the electrical upgrades so that the switch could be there if they wanted to use a portable generator. Floodproofing measures for interior improvements, and then repair of storm damage. We did hear of businesses that had to repair finishes and so on. For this, we're recommending that the grant not exceed $10,000. Another facet of that is the current criteria limit interior renovation amounts to $45,000 per budget year. When you awarded the fall grants, we did get up to that $45,000. So we would request that in your action tonight, you approve the recommended resiliency categories and allow the amount of interior renovations to exceed $45,000. This is a one-time grant cycle, and we would go back to our normal grant cycle in the fall. We did talk with businesses about this and specifically sat down with Cammie from the chamber and sort of ran these by her, and she's gotten some input from her members, and she is here this evening as well, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
The 45,000, that wasn't the whole budget for this cycle, was it? That was just per property?
Yeah, in the fall cycle, the limit was $15,000 per property, and we did award 3 $15,000 grants. So we met our cap of $45,000 for interior renovations for the year.
Okay.
That's the current criteria. We're asking to waive that so we can give additional interior improvement grants in the spring cycle.
All right. Anyone else? Anyone from the audience wish to be heard? You all sat around this long just to hear most likely. All right. Do we have a motion?
Move to authorize modification of the downtown partnership grant categories for spring of 2025 to promote business resiliency.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we need one member for the Public Art Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. So Ms. Colleen Baxter has resigned from the PAC. The current alternate is Deanne White. She has missed 2 meetings within the past 12 months. We have received 1 application from Kate Oyer. So it is requested that the City Commission appoint 1 regular member to the PAC for a 2-year term. Should the alternate be appointed as a regular member, it is requested that a new alternate also be appointed.
I'll make a motion to appoint Kate Oyer as a regular.
Anyone from the audience wish to be heard? Do we have a second? I'll second it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes 5-0. All right, so now we need an alternate.
And we've already got an alternate.
We got the al-
Yeah, you just skipped the alternate. Okay. Gotcha. All right, so we're good. All right, so now we need 1 member for the Board of Trustees for Firefighter Pension Trust Fund.
So the term of David Harvey expires in November of 2024. He did move out of state, so he has not requested reappointment. There are no alternates on this board, and this seat is a commission-appointed seat. We have received 1 application from Cammie Lumpkin. It is requested that the City Commission appoint 1 member to the board for a 2-year term.
I'll move to appoint Cammie Lumpkin into the Board of Trustees for Firefighter Pension Fund.
I'll second that.
I got a lot of questions here. Hold on. All right, all those in favor? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. All right. Moving on to commission reports. Commissioner Burnett.
Oh, I get to lead it off tonight, huh? Okay. You want me to make it as long as possible? Have we stayed late enough? We need some more snacks in the drawers? Keep going. Yeah, we're all out of snacks. I'll be quick. I want to appreciate the Diversity Advisory Board for showing up and presenting to us tonight. I've been really impressed with that board, staying present and in front of us to let us know how they're going out and impacting the community, along with being out there and doing what they can with the community day in, day out. I brag when I talk to people about the makeup of our commission. I brag about our commission, but city government, I brag about a lot of things, but the Diversity Advisory Board is, I think, a shining star amongst us for having that in place and trying to drive that sort of change in our community. So glad for them coming out here with us tonight. I'd also like to congratulate our Christine Williams for 25 years of service. 25 years with any company is a remarkable achievement now. And also glad to have Kate there in the library with us with some tenure. So those were nice to see. Welcome our new HR director who thank goodness has gone home to get some sleep now. Got some work ahead of her. But I also want to, the library roof looks fantastic. If you haven't been by to see it, my wife and I, we took our kids to the library the other day and we've been sort of going around, but just it's really coming together and looking nice. I know we'll probably get some more updates as they come, but I think it just looks great. And then with that looking great, I'm going to circle back to the pier for just a second. I'm comfortable with staying the course, and that sounded like that was the appetite of the commission right now. I will continue my polling. I will tell you, it appears to me that the will of the majority of the community does want a pier. They're happy with what we had before, and they want to stay the course and get it rebuilt as fast as possible. So I'll continue to ask that question, and if I feel like I have an overwhelming desire to bring it up for debate, we will. Thank you to Renee for filling in some of the gaps on what our limitations are there. But I will say, in light of the library looking so great and the pier upcoming, I do think that the peer discussion had an opportunity to have a little bit more public input. And we're going to be coming around and getting a more comprehensive plan on what we do with our city properties. There's going to be a lot of them that are going to come up for some renovation and some updating that I think I would just encourage us to try to engage the public or offer some opportunities to invite them in on some of those design ideas as that comes up. So appreciate y'all listening to me there, and glad to be back in here, and Happy New Year to everybody.
Commissioner Diaz? Yeah, I got a few notes, just comments. The first thing is on code enforcement. I'm a little bit disappointed as to our capabilities to keep everybody under the ordinances. It just seems like people can go ahead and do what they want. And sometimes we fine them, sometimes we let them off, sometimes we just let them keep doing stuff. I think we have to start looking at, implementing the ordinances and supporting our code enforcement personnel a little bit better. I just hear a lot of things where people are asking, what good is it if we have ordinances? What good is it if we got signs or rules and nobody's, people are not obeying them. They're doing what they want to do, and they're getting away with it. So I think here from the commission's perspective, I think we have to pay a little bit more attention to that, especially that we do have people that are spending a lot of time putting ordinances together. We have code enforcement people going out there. We got police officers going out there, and such what. And we need to do our part in this whole, process to make sure that ordinance and laws are abided to. The other thing that I have is on the Bishop Creek, Mullet Creek, is that, I really want to know exactly, during this process, I want to understand exactly, what we're going to do, because by no means did I mean, hey, there's like, unlimited funds, carte blanche on this whole thing. I want us to be protective of our resources and, use common sense and practicality, and with the understanding that everything may not be able to be saved, okay? For the greater good of the community. Because at the end of the day, whatever we apply, it's gonna be public money. And it's gotta be for the public good, for the general public good. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Basur?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank Donna Mack and Christine McWilliams for the wonderful programs they put on for Dr. Martin Luther King's anniversary, for Martin Luther King Day, as well as for his birthday. I was able to see the St. John's Missionary Baptist, I believe it was, children perform a dance over at the museum, and it was just really inspirational. I keep having this loop these days going through my brain that I believe the future is the children, and I look to them. If I start feeling sad or I just feel despondent about the way the adults are running things, I think the kids, they have this life and they have this opportunity, if we give it to them, to make things better for all of us in the future. And so that, I just really think that with Donna's work and Christine's work, they got people together in the community, and it just really was inspirational. They had a gentleman read the I Have a Dream speech. I wish I'd memorized his name. I didn't, but he did an astounding job. And they had audience participation, and Harbor Dish offered snacks. And so it was really wonderful. I went to the evening program. I couldn't make it to the day program. I just wanted to say thank you and congratulations also for Christine. And please remind me the young lady's name. You knew. Kate. Yes. Yeah. I'm just really happy when I hear that people stay with us 5 years, 25 years, 30 years. It just means that things are right in the harbor. And so thank you. That's my report.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thanks. Well, Happy New Year to everyone. Great to be here. Looking forward to another fun-filled year serving on the commission. I did convey something to Josh. I think we enacted back a few years back I wasn't up here, I think it was 2016, the tent ordinance allowing for tents. And there's an antique shop on Main Street. Personally, and I understand the necessity for having tents, especially when COVID was, hitting and everybody wanted to be outside and protect you from the elements. I do have a problem, though, with vacant lots being used to prop up a tent. Years ago, we had a business that came to town. There was no brick and mortar. People with brick and mortar businesses complained about it. They had a hard time with it. There was a grocer at the end, at the east end of Main Street. He just set up and, sold food out there. Everybody liked it. We allowed it. We let it happen for a while. The idea he was supposed to morph into a business never happened. But I don't think the intention of the tent permit was really to allow tents to be erected by non-brick and mortar businesses in Safety Harbor. And I don't think it's not a good image for the city as people enter the city to see some vacant lot with a tent propped on it selling antiques. I'm sorry, I don't think it's Safety Harbor. I think, across the street, they had a tent up for a long time during COVID, and I think it was perfectly great because it brought in customers, but that's a brick and mortar business. I don't have a problem with that, but I would like to see us address that so that we don't have vacant lots being rented out with tents going up. I just don't think I don't think it's a good image for the city. That's just my take, but I don't remember the ordinance number, but I think it was in 2016 that it was enacted. You provided it to me. But I'd like to see us address it to kind of close that loophole. I mean, keep the temporary tents going, but, when there's an application, but when it comes to a vacant lot and someone wanting to erect a tent on a vacant lot outside of a wedding, outside of a special function for a very limited time, I just don't see running businesses out of tents on vacant lots. I just don't think that's us. So I don't know if anybody in the commission feels the same way I do. I mean, but I'd like to see us kind of.
Didn't until you started talking about it. I'm just curious, do you know how long they're allowed to keep the tent there for?
It's up to 60 days. It'll be down, I think, February 7th.
But again, I want to address it
The
so that in
ordinance
the future.
doesn't happen again.
We don't have a tent erected on a vacant lot so that a business can operate out of the tent that is non-brick and mortar.
Could I throw in on that? Even though it's temporary, because I also, when I first saw it, I thought, okay, and I've heard from a resident who said, okay, this is now the medical circus district. He was an edge of sarcasm, and I didn't respond because I heard something else about that. That was a person who was flooded out, and so the person is selling remaining merchandise flooded out of his home that was in his warehouse as well as his boutique business. So it's time limited, 60 days, and I felt better because it wasn't something that we're going to see ongoing forever. But you're saying close that loophole.
I don't know if you're going to see it ongoing. I mean, I don't know.
Because then you're saying maybe some other unfortunate person may apply to that landlord.
I don't know what's going to happen. But
I hear you. I mean, I don't know if, I'm assuming the ordinance says 60 days, which isn't,
again,
that's too long for you?
that's fine, but to run a non-brick and mortar business on a vacant lot so that they're paying rents, it's again, if you want tents up for 60 days, I don't want them up on vacant lots at all personally, but I just don't. If it's a revival, there's a religious function going on there, it's usually up days and it's gone. I mean, it won't be on there for even 60 days. But, again, we can put language in there. I just don't think it's fitting.
I'm open to looking at it if the rest of the commission is.
If the commission decides that, we do have a workshop in February for land development code items. If there's direction on that, we could add that to the list of things to put into the sandbox to discuss.
Just to tweak it a little more. I'm not asking to omit it and take it away. I just want to tweak it so that.
Discuss it then.
Okay.
Anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
No report for me. Josh?
Speaking of tents, this weekend, Station 5-2 will be tented due to some termite issues. So you will see that. Chief Hawkins is managing the project. Emergency services will run as they normally run, so the crews will be staying here Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in City Hall, and they'll have the apparatus parked out back. So you will see that. You will see that tent. And then most importantly, you've been waiting all day to say it. Somebody's got a big birthday week, so Vice Mayor Steingold, happy birthday Thursday. So I hope you have a great day.
Happy birthday. It's my anniversary, too.
And your anniversary. I was just going to say that. You didn't let me get through everything.
26
That's my
years.
report.
One, there was a notice of appeal filed in the Leverkusen Land Code Enforcement Board order, and so I just forwarded that notice of appeal to all of you. I will keep you updated as it moves forward.
I'll replenish this since.
All right, thank you, everyone. Meeting's adjourned.
This way. I can't.
It's like next Thursday, because I'm flying in and have to go straight to the rec center.